Chapter 579. Within a certain secret chamber, there was a gate with a pair of glowing gates glowing with a dazzling light. A series of tremors suddenly erupted from within the small golden gate. Immediately afterward, an extremely powerful spatial power erupted from within the small golden gate, imbued with an unparalleled suction force. In the end, 18 figures appeared outside the golden gate, all of whom were soul formation stage cultivators. Wang Xuanzhan's azure robe was stained with blood, and he looked around with a fearsome aura as if he was searching for someone. An expression of pain and regret then appeared on his face. Lin, you didn't come back? 31 soul formation stage cultivators had entered the small golden gate, but only 18 of them had made it out alive. This trip to the ancient Tai Chu realm had been quite a tragic one. All of the cultivators were either in grief or shaking their heads as they heaved a forlorn sigh. The joy of their safe return had been diluted by those who couldn't make it back, and the atmosphere was a little heavy. Among the cultivators who had stayed behind in the ancient divine division were their friends and comrades who had fought alongside them. Now that none of them could make it back, everyone was feeling a little depressed. At this moment, a white film of light enshrouded all of the cultivators present as an extremely powerful healing power began to heal their injuries. Emperor Ziwei was in the middle of unleashing a healing spell technique on all of the cultivators, and they only came to their senses now before bowing toward Emperor Ziwei. Emperor Ziwei shook his head with a solemn expression. There's no need for such formalities. You've all worked hard on this trip. All of you are heroes of the Celestial Court. Right at this moment, the small golden gate began to slowly disappear. Everyone felt a sense of emptiness in their hearts. The passageway had been destroyed, which meant that all of the cultivators who didn't make it back would never make it back. The large golden door began to tremble. Then, a burly, 3-meter-tall man appeared outside the golden door. He held a giant crimson axe in his hand and exuded a vast and profound aura. It's a giant spirit god. Some of the soul formation stage cultivators spoke with elation on their faces. All of the return to void stage cultivators were among the most powerful cultivators in the Celestial Court, so they were all ecstatic to see a return to void stage cultivator return safely. Then, a red-robed mighty figure with eyes as bright as the sun and a sun patrol immortal badge in his hand began to appear. Before anyone could say anything, another dazzling light appeared. Then, a figure in white and a figure in pink appeared. Not only did the day cruising god return, even Lu Dongbin and Celestial Maiden, he returned safely. Some cultivators said happily. The cultivators were happy to hear this, but when the light faded and they saw the pink figure clearly, their smiles slowly froze and their mouths opened wide. Wang Xuanzhan stared at the woman in disbelief. Lu Chu, I'm not dreaming, right? A beautiful woman in a pink dress stood in front of everyone with an adorable smile on her face, and there was a super adorable snow soul beast in her arms. That's right. I traveled to the Void Star section by chance, and it was all thanks to Senior Lu that I was able to return safely. Lu Chu looked up at the man beside her with a grateful expression as she spoke. Lu Dongbin shook his head with a smile, indicating that there was no need to be so polite. He then turned his gaze toward the golden gate of light again, as if he were waiting for someone to return. Emperor Ziwei was also quite surprised by Lu Chu's appearance, and his gaze toward the golden gate became even more expectant. Right at this moment, another burst of light flashed, and Celestial Maiden He and the Night Cruising God appeared outside the golden gate. This is great. All the return to void stage mighty figures of our Celestial Court have returned safely. Some of the cultivators couldn't help but cheer. The Void Star section was far more perilous than the ancient divine division, and even return to void stage cultivators faced the threat of death there. It was indeed a cause for celebration that all 5 of them had returned unscathed. However, just when everyone thought that Emperor Ziwei was going to teleport them away from this place, they discovered that he didn't react at all. Instead, he was still staring at the golden gate. Lu Chu, Lu Dongbin, Celestial Maiden He, and the night cruising god also turned their eyes toward the Golden Gate. Everyone else was extremely perplexed upon seeing their expressions, and someone couldn't help but ask, "What's going on? Are you waiting for someone?" "We're waiting for our savior." A smile appeared on Celestial Maidenhe's face, and there was an undeniable determination on her face. All the other cultivators were astonished upon hearing this. There really was someone else who would come out from the Golden Gate? Weren't all the return to Void stage mighty figures of the Celestial Court here? Who could be Celestial Maidenhe's savior? Who had the ability to do so? Wang Xuanzhan suddenly thought of a person, and his heart stirred as he also looked up at the Golden Gate with a tense expression. A dazzling golden light erupted from the Golden Gate, and a terrifying aura swept forth, causing the entire space to tremor slightly. Even the Golden Gate that connected the two worlds began to crack open. Everyone was astonished once again, and they all turned toward the Golden Gate with shock and horror. Emperor Zui's brows furrowed as he pointed a finger toward the Golden Gate, and an extremely vast power surged forth from his fingertip to maintain the stability of the Golden Gate. Right at this moment, two figures began to appear. The man was dressed in a flowing white robe, and he was holding onto the hand of a young boy in his right hand. In his left hand was a super adorable snow soul beast, and on his shoulder was an extremely flawless fairy. All the other cultivators' eyes widened, and their minds instantly went blank. What kind of F***king combination was this? Did the Celestial Court even have people like this? No, one of them was extremely familiar. At this moment, even Emperor Ziwei's eyelids twitched in disbelief. He could understand why Enlin had appeared, and he could accept the snow soul beast as well. But who the hell was that little boy and that fairy? Huh, am I the last one? Enlin looked around to find that everyone was staring at him, and a blush appeared on his face as he joined his hands in salute. Sorry for making everyone wait. Welcome back, Lu Dongbin said with a smile. Lu Chuchu waved at Enlin with an adorable and mischievous smile. Wang Xuanzhan even made his way over to Enlin and slapped him on the shoulder with a smile on his face. So you also went to the Void Star section. I was sad for you for nothing. Enlin waved his hands with a hearty smile. It was just an accident. Emperor Wei looked at Enlin and the others, and countless stars flashed through his eyes. He closed his eyes for a moment, but he was unable to conceal the shock in his heart. Mr. Enlin, what is the background of this primordial dragon and fairy beside you? Emperor Ziwei asked. Shui Zhantian glared at Emperor Ziwei upon hearing this, as if he was displeased that Emperor Ziwei hadn't asked about his background. Was he looking down on his grandpa Zhantian? Oh, this Xiao Zhe is my disciple, and Tina the fairy is my beast pet. Enlin didn't try to hide the truth. They still had to live in the Celestial Court in the future, so it was a good idea to reveal these things as soon as possible. Emperor Ziwei's face convulsed slightly. You accepted a primordial dragon at the pinnacle of the return to Void intermediate stage as your disciple and a true sage fairy as your beast pet? That's right. Enlin nodded with a calm expression. Gasp! Everyone's eyes widened in shock as they drew another sharp intake of breath. A soul formation stage cultivator had accepted a disciple at the pinnacle of the return to Void intermediate stage. And that fairy clearly possessed power comparable to a return to Void stage mighty figure. But she had become his beast pet. They felt like they were either dreaming or the world had gone insane. If someone were to mention this to someone else, they would definitely be slapped across the face and yelled at with rage. Who the F***CK are you trying to fool? Was that something a soul formation stage cultivator could do? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was a Dao integration stage true god. Even Lu Dongbin and Lu Chuchu were dumbstruck. They had never seen Xiao Zhe before, and they didn't think that Enlin would be able to make a dragon tribe mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to Void intermediate stage accept him as his master in such a short time. Wang Xuanzhan was rooted to the spot once again. He felt like his brain was about to explode after hearing the conversation between Emperor Ziwei and Enlin. Haha, Mr. Enlin sure is blessed. Not bad, not bad. Emperor Ziwei nodded with a smile on his face. and Lin was probably the only person in the entire celestial court who could receive such praise from Emperor Ziwei. Even though he already had a very high opinion of Enlin, he didn't think that Enlin would still be able to bring him such a pleasant surprise. However, he was a mighty figure who had lived for countless years, so he quickly calmed himself down. After the passageway between the two worlds disappeared, he waved his sleeve through the air, and the space around him warped as everyone was teleported to a spacious white palace. Emperor Ziwei's authoritative yet soothing voice sounded. Now, let's begin the exchange of realm essence crystals. Chapter 580. Emperor Ziwei waved a hand, and an immortal tool that resembled a white wooden barrel appeared in front of everyone. The immortal tool had a diameter of 30 feet, and its surface was glowing with a faint golden light. The center of the immortal tool was pitch black, as if it were a gigantic, bottomless mouth. No one knew where it led to. I've already set up a spell formation on this glazed spatial wood. Place all of the realm essence crystals you've obtained into the black hole, and the glazed spatial wood will pay you the corresponding amount of spirit stones according to the price I mentioned earlier. White realm essence crystals are 10,000 spirit stones each. Green realm essence crystals are 30,000 spirit stones each. Blue realm essence crystals are 100,000 spirit stones each. Red realm essence crystals are 200,000 spirit stones each. And golden realm essence crystals are 1,000,000 spirit stones each. And Lin was already itching to make a move as soon as Emperor Ziwei finished speaking. He knew that this was his last chance. Emperor Ziwei swept his gaze over everyone before heaving a light sigh as his body began to dissipate. He still had to go to the Ziwei Pavilion to make arrangements for the deceased cultivators. He couldn't mistreat the brave cultivators who had sacrificed their lives for the celestial court. And Lin walked over to the glazed spatial wood and tossed out a white realm essence crystal. A white vital stone really did fly out of the black hole. One vital stone was equivalent to 10,000 spirit stones. He put away the vital stone with a hint of surprise on his face before looking around. Tina, Shuizhantian, and Xiaozhe were also standing in different locations, looking at everyone with scorching eyes. The rest of the cultivators didn't know what was going on, and they cast curious glances at them before deciding to toss realm essence crystals into the glazed spatial wood. One cultivator after another began to make their exchange. The soul formation stage, cultivators mostly obtained white realm essence crystals and green realm essence crystals. Blue and red realm essence crystals were extremely rare, and golden realm essence crystals were nowhere to be found. On average, each soul formation stage cultivator only obtained a few 100,000 spirit stones. Occasionally, there would be one or two lucky cultivators who could obtain over 1,000,000 spirit stones. At this moment, Lu Chuchu's appearance became the center of attention. She waved her hand, and dazzling white, green, blue, and red realm essence crystals appeared. There was even a golden realm essence crystal, and it drew cries of surprise from the surrounding cultivators. And Lin did some calculations and discovered that the total value of her crystal sources had already reached 3,100,000 spirit stones. It was no wonder that she was the person who had obtained the most out of all the crystal sources. Lu Chuchu tossed in one crystal essence crystal after another with a smile on her face. Then, she put away the vital stones one by one, and everyone was completely mesmerized by her actions. She even had a legendary beast pet helping her, so she truly deserved to be called a winner in life. Just as she tossed the golden realm essence crystals into the glazed spatial wood, a fairy hugged the golden realm essence crystal tightly before flying over to Enlin and handing it over to him. When everyone saw this scene, they were a little confused. What were they doing? Lu Chuchu was also a little dumbstruck as she blinked her eyes. You're not trying to rob me in broad daylight, right in front of everyone's eyes. Shuizhantian raised his wings. Well said, Lu Chuchu, and Lin immediately put on an apologetic smile. I'm in urgent need of golden realm essence crystals. You know what my target is, right? I'll give you 11 blue realm essence crystals for them. 11 Blue Realm Essence crystals were equivalent to 1,100,000 spirit stones, which was 10% more than what Emperor Ziwei was offering. He was sure that Lu Chuchu wouldn't reject this offer. Lu Chuchu pursed her lips in resignation. Seeing as we're comrades, I'll only ask for 10 Blue Realm Essence crystals. And Lin immediately agreed and brought out 10 Blue Realm Essence crystals from his storage ring before handing them over to Lu Chuchu. Lu Chuchu rolled her eyes before exchanging them for money. Then, she made her way over to Enlin with a curious expression. How much of a target are you now? Thanks to your help, I'm only 6 away. Enlin replied gratefully. Lu Chuchu's body swayed slightly as she clasped a hand over her chest. She took a deep breath before silently walking away. The happiness of a winner in life always left as quickly as it came. All of the cultivators who were preparing to exchange their realm essence crystals for spirit stones heard the conversation between Enlin and Lu Chuchu. 1 golden realm essence crystal could be exchanged for 11 blue realm essence crystals? Are you for real? The few cultivators who had golden realm essence crystals were starting to get restless. Soon, 2 cultivators walked toward Enlin. Enlin generously brought out 22 blue realm essence crystals. The exchange was successful, and 2 golden realm essence crystals were obtained. Enlin and the others stood guard beside the glazed space to ensure that they wouldn't miss out on any golden realm essence crystals. After that, another cultivator made his way over to the glazed space wood and chose to exchange for golden realm essence crystals with Enlin. After a while, all of the soul formation stage cultivators had exchanged their realm essence crystals, and not a single golden realm essence crystal appeared. Enlin's heart leaped into his throat again. Only 3 more realm essence crystals had to be enough. Celestial Maiden, he, and the Night Patrol God began to exchange their realm essence crystals. They had already exchanged with Enlin, so they were clearly out of realm essence crystals. Even Lu Dongbin had run out of golden realm essence crystals. The Day Patrol God slowly made his way over to the glazed space wood. He opened his hand, and over 300 white realm essence crystals and a few dozen green realm essence crystals appeared around him. Enlin glanced at them. Wow, this is a realm essence crystal tycoon. He was instantly filled with anticipation. However, the Day Patrol God silently left after exchanging a few hundred vital stones. Enlin, right at this moment, the mighty miracle God walked over with a smile on his face. Mr. Enlin, I heard that you want golden realm essence crystals? Enlin's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and he hurriedly nodded. That's right. How many do you have? The mighty miracle God extended 2 fingers. I have 2. How about it? Do you have enough realm essence crystals to exchange for them? Enlin's heart instantly sank, and he nodded dejectedly. Enough, my asterisk S. I'm still short of 1 golden realm essence crystal. Enlin accepted the mighty miracle God's golden realm essence crystals, and there were 99 golden realm essence crystals in his storage ring. He was the only one left who hadn't exchanged his realm essence crystals yet. Enlin felt a chill run down his spine, and he forcibly held back his tears as he exchanged his realm essence crystals. There were 344 white realm essence crystals, 60 green realm essence crystals, and 7 blue realm essence crystals. His realm essence crystals instantly shone brightly, attracting countless envious gazes. Mr. Enlin also reaped a bountiful harvest from this trip. That's right. The value of these realm essence crystals is comparable to that of a return to Void Stage Celestial Immortal. Comparable? Have you forgotten that he exchanged his golden realm essence crystals with someone else? I was wrong. He is the true winner in life. Enlin stowed the 594 vital stones into his storage ring. The total number of spirit stones in his storage ring had reached an astonishing 31,820,000. He was truly a tycoon in the cultivation world. However, so what if he had more money? Could he buy a dick? He looked up into the sky, and tears flowed lightly from his eyes. This scene was seen by many people, and all of them were slightly surprised. Why is Mr. and Lin crying? Is he crying because he has too much money? I think it's because he's thinking about his fallen comrade, and he's touched by the memory. He looks so sad. Should we go and comfort him? Celestial Maiden, he, and the others felt their hearts clench upon hearing this, as if they had been reminded of some unpleasant memories. If they went and comforted Lin now, he would definitely be moved to tears after learning the truth. Not long after, Emperor Ziwei's figure appeared in the palace again. Looks like everyone has exchanged their realm essence crystals. There was a faint smile on his face as he began to touch the glazed spatial wood. What a bountiful harvest. I feel like this is the best harvest I've had in the last 10,000 years. Emperor Ziwei nodded as he felt the glazed spatial wood, and his expression faltered slightly. He seemed to be in disbelief and touched the glazed space wood again. In the end, he sucked in a breath of cold air and looked up at the group of cultivators in front of him. What's going on? Why aren't there any golden realm essence crystals? Chapter 581. Everyone turned to look at Lin upon hearing Emperor Ziwei's question. A harmless smile appeared on Lin's face. Emperor Ziwei, I purchased their golden realm essence crystals at a 10% premium to my own realm essence crystals, so the price was absolutely fair and reasonable. I really do need these golden realm essence crystals urgently. Was he here to steal their business? Emperor Ziwei's face convulsed slightly. How urgently? So urgently that if I don't have any more golden realm essence crystals, I'll suffer for 10,000 years. And Lin replied with a solemn expression. That's serious? Emperor Ziwei was a little surprised. It wasn't that he had to have golden realm essence crystals. It was just that the fact that he hadn't found a single golden realm essence crystal on this trip was far too bizarre, so he decided to ask everyone about it. And Lin nodded. It really is very serious. Furthermore, I'm still one golden realm essence crystal away from my goal. Do you have any? I could buy them back from you. I don't care how much it costs. Emperor Ziwei couldn't help but chuckle. That's enough. Not only can I not obtain any golden realm essence crystals, but you're also going to take one from me? Can you tell me how many golden realm essence crystals you're aiming to collect? 100, and Lin replied. PFFF. Emperor Ziwei couldn't maintain his usual cold expression any longer, and he burst into laughter. 100? Which means you already have 99. All right, let me see. If you really have 99, I'll give you another golden realm essence crystal. He naturally didn't believe in Lin's words, so he replied in such a manner. 99 golden realm essence crystals? He dared to say such a large number. Who was he trying to fool? And Lin's eyes lit up. You're forcing me to flaunt my wealth. He had no choice but to hand over all 99 golden realm essence crystals. In that instant, an extremely dazzling golden light lit up the entire space. The special properties of high-grade realm essence crystals caused the entire space within the palace to become extremely viscous. Aside from a vast expanse of golden light, there were no other colors. Countless cultivators felt as if their eyes were blinded by the light, as if they had been hit by a flash bomb. Emperor Ziwei's mouth gaped open in shock as he stared at the dense cluster of golden realm essence crystals in the air. Is this the amount of crystal sources that a single person can collect? This was the first time Emperor Ziwei had ever lost his composure like this. He stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before him. To put it bluntly, the total number of golden realm essence crystals that the other 15 major powers possessed probably couldn't even compare to what Lin possessed. As for the rest of the cultivators, they were all dazzled and completely subdued by Lin's crystal sources. So dazzling. These are all King golden realm essence crystals? How much does it cost? In any case, it's not something we can imagine. My God. There's also a beautiful woman constructed from golden realm essence crystals. Poverty has limited my imagination. Fellow Taoist and Lin is so terrifying. Is there anyone in the celestial court who is more monstrous than him? And Lin suddenly offered a reminder as he listened to the discussions around him. That's right, That beautiful woman is constructed from 23 golden realm essence crystals. Can you count if there are 99 of them? He believed that Emperor Ziwei would definitely be able to determine the total number of realm essence crystals here. Emperor Ziwei took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He then pulled out a golden realm essence crystal from his storage ring with trembling hands before handing it over to Enlin. This was the sample crystal that he had displayed to all the cultivators before entering the ancient Tai Chu realm. Now it was finally going to leave him. He was going to fulfill the promise he had made, even with tears in his eyes. Enlin heaved a long sigh of relief as he accepted the golden realm essence crystal that Emperor Ziwei had gifted him. He could finally complete the mission that the system had issued. Furthermore, he had earned a golden realm essence crystal for free. After Enlin stowed the 100 golden realm essence crystals into his storage ring, everyone felt as if the sky had darkened. All of the cultivators, including Lu Chu and the others, felt as if they were in a dream. It was as if everything before them was fake. Some of the cultivators even lowered their heads slightly, not daring to look directly at Enlin. Emperor Ziwei recovered from his shock and was extremely curious. What did Enlin want so many realm essence crystals for? Enlin, did you also complete that mission? Emperor Ziwei asked. I did. Enlin nodded with a smile. Emperor Ziwei smiled upon hearing this. Looks like I'll have to keep you here for a good chat. He was extremely curious about Enlin's experiences, and he couldn't help but want to learn more about them. This was exactly what Enlin wanted. Enlin immediately nodded in agreement. All right, I also have some things to discuss with you. Emperor Ziwei gave a brief briefing to the other cultivators before sending them to the Ziwei Pavilion to compile the information they had gathered and report it to the Celestial Court. Soon, only Enlin, Xiao Zhe, Tina, Shui Zhantian, and Emperor Ziwei were left in the palace. Emperor Ziwei waved a sleeve, and a tea table appeared between the two of them. Please take a seat, Mr. Enlin. Let's have a good chat, Emperor Ziwei said with a warm smile. Enlin nodded before handing a stardust fruit to Emperor Ziwei. Emperor Ziwei's expression remained unchanged as he accepted the stardust fruit. He didn't even look at it. Instead, he stared at Enlin and took a sip of tea. Tell me about what you encountered in the ancient Tai Chu realm. Get to the important points. Important points? Enlin thought for a moment before replying. I took in 3 blood tribe returned to void stage mighty figures as servants. PFFF. Emperor Ziwei spat out a mouthful of tea before he even had a chance to wipe it away. He turned to look at Enlin with astonishment on his face. Enlin nodded with a serious expression. It's true. Emperor Ziwei took a deep breath before speaking with a serious expression. Tell me about it in detail. Enlin recounted how he had taken in 3 blood tribe mighty figures, and he attributed all of this to the blood in his body. He had chosen to tell this story as he had wanted to get a mighty figure to help him analyze his blood. After all, he was a little uneasy about his strange constitution, and he wanted to learn more about it. However, after Emperor Ziwei asked for a drop of Enlin's blood, he didn't see anything special about it. Cassidy, Merlin, and Tobias are all extremely renowned mighty figures in the blood tribe. If they can become spies for the Celestial Court, then they'll be extremely useful. I'll send people from the Celestial Court to contact them, so you don't have to worry about that. Emperor Ziwei clicked his tongue in wonder at Enlin's bizarre experience, and he urged him to tell him the rest of the story. Enlin told Emperor Ziwei about his encounter with Tina, his encounter with Shui Zhantian, his encounter with the world collapsing, and his journey into the huge starry mountain. However, he hid the fact that Tina had obtained a fragment of the realm core. He only told him that she had unleashed a mysterious power to release the souls from the afterlife. Emperor Ziwei listened with great interest, and his expression was filled with astonishment and incredulity when he heard about his conflict with the large whale. Sigh, what an unresolved love story. Emperor Ziwei shook his head and sighed with emotion. Enlin's lips twitched slightly. Was this the time to be complaining about something like this? However, he really did miss the little whale. The little whale's good temper must have had something to do with him, right? He wondered if the little whale's mother would lead it astray. After that, his discussion with Emperor Ziwei revolved around the three Blood Tribe mighty figures, and they came up with a more reliable plan. In any case, the safety of the three Blood Tribe mighty figures was their top priority, so they could slowly enact a series of plans. After taking care of the matters in the ancient Taichu realm, Enlin flew toward Xiaoxian United University atop his brick with Xiao Zhe, Tina, and Shui Zhantian in tow. Chapter 582. Within a perpetually frozen castle in the holy glacial lands, a golden spatial gate slowly dissipated. The great empress and high priestess Meng Ji stood side by side with three return to Void Stage Holy Palace leaders and 10 Soul Formation Stage Snow Maidens standing before them. There were 20 Soul Formation Stage Snow Maidens, but only half of them had returned alive. However, that wasn't what Meng Ji was most concerned about. We can't find the fragments of the realm core, and we don't even have enough realm essence crystals. Tell me why. Her pure golden eyes were imbued with a peerless might as she glared at the snow maidens before her. Her hand trembled as she gripped her divine staff, and it was clear that she was on the verge of exploding with rage. The return of Void Stage Palace leaders clearly bore the brunt of the responsibility. They had been given high hopes, but they had returned empty-handed and didn't even have a single Golden Realm Essence crystal. The return to Void Stage team leader, Rogu, bowed her head. During the battle against the Long Shang in the Remorseless Realm, we were trapped by Enlin and his troops. They robbed us of all our storage rings, and they only let us go out of some sort of emotional compulsion. Huh? Your storage rings were also robbed by Enlin? Us too. Lu Wei raised her head with astonishment on her face. The team she represented was the team that Shangwan Yi was in, and it was also the team that had become completely destitute. A peculiar atmosphere permeated through the air among the Snow Maidens. Was this a coincidence? You were also robbed by Enlin. The Soul Formation Stage Snow Maidens were all astonished. They could understand why Lu Wei and the others had their treasure stolen. However, who would have thought that the three returned to Void Stage Snow Maidens would also be plundered by Enlin? This was quite unimaginable. Meng Ji's chest constricted as she recalled the face that had raised his middle finger at her upon hearing this name. The great empress heaved an almost imperceptible sigh. Enlin, it's him again. The black floating continent was shrouded in a curtain of night. A bronze-skinned man with a massive saber on his back was recounting his experiences to the Darkwing Emperor and the other monarchs. When the monarchs heard this, their hearts trembled. Never would they have thought that Enlin would be such a terrifying existence. At the same time, they rejoiced in their hearts. Fortunately, they didn't take the initiative to deal with that evildoer. Otherwise, their lives would be in danger. The Darkwing Emperor pondered for a moment before summoning a crow. He tapped the black light on the crow's head and injected all the information he had learned into the crow's body. The crow flapped its wings and flew away, blending into the darkness and disappearing. He definitely had to get the evil slaying sword back. All he could do now was pass on some useful information to the Moonlit Night Monarch so that she would be more confident in her mission. On a blood-red land, evil spirits were wailing. In front of a tall, dog-headed, human-bodied monster in black armor stood a slender, black-clothed woman with a face as white as the moon. A crow appeared from the void of space and landed on the woman's shoulder. The woman closed her eyes, sensing the message from the crow. Then, her face changed slightly as waves of shock surged in her heart. It can't be real. Enlin's strength is already so heaven-defying. She felt as if her worldview had been refreshed once again, and she began to question her analysis. Would the return to Void Stage cannon fodder still be of any use? The woman looked at the dog-headed monster before her with a hesitant expression in the dark marshlands. Emperor Yi Dang glowered at the four people before him with an enraged expression. He pointed at a woman with short golden hair. Look at Daisy. She has obtained 3 Golden Realm Essence crystals and 15 Red Realm Essence crystals. He then pointed at the other 3 people. Cassidy, Tobias, Merlin, the 3 of you combined don't even have as much as she has. It's not that Daisy has too much, it's that you have too little, understand? During the next 100 years, the divine blood tower's distribution of resources will be cut by 30% from your sex. Daisy chuckled lightly with a seductive expression on her face. She was only a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage. Who would have thought that she would be able to completely dominate the three people before her? Cassidy, Tobias, and Merlin immediately bowed their heads in apology, but they were sneering in their hearts. Who the F***CK cared about your divine blood tower? Holy blood was what they were after. Cassidy was already at the return to void intermediate stage, and Merlin was also showing signs of making a breakthrough after being purified by Enlin's holy blood. It wouldn't be long before he progressed to the return to void intermediate stage. Tobias was already at the pinnacle of the return to void intermediate stage, and he was currently attempting to fuse with Enlin's holy blood to attain an unprecedented blood tribe Tao in order to progress to the return to void final stage. At the same time, one returned to void stage mighty figure after another in the Garden of Eden, the Buddhist kingdom, the West Sea Divine Palace, and the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas brought back news that Enlin's name had shaken the entire continent for the first time. Celestial Court Xiaoxian United University. A black brick pierced through the clouds and arrived at this familiar campus. Wow, Giant Enlin, this is where you go to school? It's so big and beautiful. Tina's eyes glowed with a bright green light as she spoke with excitement on her face. There was a vast expanse of immortal buildings, beautiful mountain peaks, and colorful clouds swirling across the land. Every single place exuded a sense of serenity and beauty, and there was also extremely rich vital energy here. Compared to the perilous environment of the ancient Tai Chu realm, this was indeed a heavenly place. Even Enlin was struck by a sense of comfort and relaxation. Master is studying here? Are you here to train in the mortal world? Xiao Zhe stroked his chin. No, this is where I'm studying. This is where I'm cultivating. Enlin retorted. Oh, all right, I understand. Xiao Zhe nodded with an earnest expression. It looked like there was no mistaking it. This was where Master was training in the mortal world. After all, no Almighty would say that they were in the secular world when they were training in the secular world. He was who he was, and what he experienced was what he wanted to experience. Shui Zhantian looked up into the sky and murmured to himself, "This place is a little close to the sky. Is this the pinnacle of the heavens?" Enlin scratched his head. I guess so. The Celestial Court is indeed quite high up. Giant Enlin, are we going to live here? Tina looked at the picturesque scenery with excitement and anticipation in her eyes. Enlin nodded. That's right. The vital energy here is extremely rich, so it'll be very beneficial for you to cultivate here. Emperor Ziwei has already spoken to Vice Principal Yuhua about this, and the Vice Principal has already agreed. You guys have to be good and don't cause any trouble. Tina whooped with joy. She was clearly very fond of this place. I'm going to take you to see a very important person. You have to do your best. Enlin instructed with a solemn expression. Who? Xiao Zhe asked. Your master's wife, Enlin replied. Gasp. Xiao Zhe drew a sharp intake of breath as a solemn expression appeared on his face. Even Tina and Shui Zhantian were getting a little nervous, and they became a lot more obedient as they looked forward to seeing what their master's Tao partner was like. Chapter 583. Enlin looked up at the sky and estimated that it was about time for school to end. As per usual, Su Xiaolan would return to her dorm room to sip some tea and rest before cultivating in the Vermilion Bird sect. Enlin stood in front of the door and knocked on it with an uneasy expression on his face. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking on the door was beating in sync with his heart. After a month of abrupt separation and experiencing so many hardships, he felt as if he had been separated from Su Xiaolan for a very long time, and his heart was filled with both longing and anxiety. Tina and Shui Zhantian flew beside Enlin with curiosity and anticipation on their faces. Meanwhile, Xiaoza forced a warm and natural smile onto his face, and after tidying his hair, he stood upright with his hands pressed against the edges of his pants, as if he were afraid that he would leave a bad impression on Su Xiaolan. The door opened. A figure that he had been thinking about day and night appeared before Lin, and a fragrant scent wafted through his nose. Su Xiaolan was still wearing her jade barley ink garment, and her silky black hair cascaded down her shoulders. Her beautiful face was flushed with a hint of holiness and nobility, and she appeared to be exceptionally beautiful. She opened her mouth slightly at the sight of the person outside the door, and a layer of mist flashed through her clear eyes before she bit down on her lower lip with a smile. "Who are you looking for?" Lin almost stumbled upon hearing this, but he quickly came to his senses with a smile. "I'm looking for Lin's Dao partner. I'm sorry, but I don't have Lin's Dao partner with me." Su Xiaolan's voice was as light as the chirping of an oriole, and she stared directly at Lin with her bright eyes. The faint smile on her face betrayed her current emotions. Then I'm here to present my adorable pet to the beautiful celestial maiden Xiaolan." And Lin thought for a moment before grabbing the round and plumped Shui Zhantian and shoving him into Su Xiaolan's arms. Su Xiaolan didn't expect Lin to answer like this and was slightly stunned. Then she focused her attention on the soft and fluffy cute thing in her arms, and a look of surprise appeared on her face again. This is a snow soul beast." A joyful smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she caressed Shui Zhantian's body with her fair, jade-like hands. From his intricate and adorable wings, to his delicate little nose, to his round and bulging body, she couldn't stop herself from caressing him. Shui Zhantian was just about to let loose a torrent of abuse at the sight of this rude petting, but it immediately shut its mouth at the sight of Lin's menacing gaze. "Celestial Maiden Xiaolan, what do you think of my present?" And Lin took this opportunity to speak with anticipation. Su Xiaolan's brows perked up slightly as she turned around with Shui Zhantian in her arms. "Looks like you're showing some sincerity. Come on in." And Lin strode into the room excitedly as if he had just been granted amnesty. Su Xiaolan put down Shui Zhantian and began to brew tea for Lin and the others. Her eyes lingered on Lin's face as she asked in a crisp voice, "How have you been during your trip to the ancient Tai Chu realm? You're not missing any limbs, are you?" And Lin could sense the concern in Su Xiaolan's voice, and he shook his head with a buoyant smile. "Don't worry, I'm doing well, and I've obtained many good things as well. Listen to me slowly. Oh, right, these are my beast pets, Tina and Shui Zhantian. That's my disciple, Xiao Zhe." And Lin pointed to a few people around him as he introduced them. "Celestial Maiden Xiaolan, you're so beautiful." Tina waved at Su Xiaolan with a wide grin on her face. "Greetings, Master's wife." Xiao Zhe extended a respectful salute towards Su Xiaolan. He could sense that there was an extremely pure dragon tribe bloodline within Su Xiaolan's body, and this aura struck him with a sense of intimacy and intimacy. Aside from that, he could also sense an extremely terrifying bloodline aura. This aura was vast and profound, and it struck him with even greater awe and veneration toward his master's Dao partner. Shui Zhantian flapped his wings with a fawning expression. "Mistress, you are truly a devastatingly beautiful woman." Su Xiaolan's face convulsed slightly, and she was no longer able to maintain her composure. What had Lin been through during the past month? "Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking care of Lin in the ruins." She took a moment to compose herself before extending a warm smile toward Tina and the others. She then handed them cups of freshly brewed tea in a gentle and dignified manner. Xiao Zhe and Tina accepted the tea with flattered expressions before waving their hands and explaining that it wasn't Lin who was taking care of them. After a brief conversation, Lin sent Tina, Shui Zhantian, and Xiao Zhe out to play. It was best to discuss important matters in private, as it would be inconvenient to have a few extra goosebumps around. After that, Lin eagerly began to share his experiences with Su Xiaolan. He didn't hide anything from Su Xiaolan, and he told her everything that he had experienced in full detail. Su Xiaolan rested her chin in her hands as she listened intently to Lin. She would tense up whenever Lin encountered danger, and she would heave a sigh of relief when Lin took care of the danger. The bizarre world of the ancient Tai Chu realm slowly unfolded before her eyes. Her mouth gaped open in shock when she heard that Enlin had taken in 3 Blood Tribe mighty figures as his servants. After hearing that Enlin had obtained a disciple, she couldn't help but burst into laughter, and 2 dimples appeared on her face as she laughed. Enlin enjoyed this feeling very much. Regardless of whether it was seeing the woman before him worry for him, or be happy for him, or reprimand him for taking such risks, he was always filled with a sense of bliss. Enlin told Su Xiaolan about the illusionary realm that he had encountered in Qilu City. That was an extremely bizarre experience, and even Su Xiaolan's heart skipped a beat upon hearing it. Enlin, what would you do if I really became an Enlin with different memories one day? Enlin asked curiously as he recalled the Su Xiaolan he had encountered in the illusionary realm in Qilu City. Su Xiaolan's brows furrowed as she looked deeply into Enlin's eyes. There was a hint of determination in her eyes, and she didn't give him a direct answer. Instead, she replied with a serious expression, I think that as long as you're still you, I'll fall in love with you again, even if our shared memories disappear. She seemed to have realized that the atmosphere was a little off as she spoke, and a faint blush appeared on her delicate cheeks as she averted her gaze. Her pristine, white ears peeked out from beneath her hair, and they were also a little flushed. Enlin's heart jolted upon hearing this, and he felt as if he had been smeared with honey. Was this Su Xiaolan confessing to him again? What was he supposed to do next? Lean in and kiss her? Her head was already turned away. Wouldn't that be a little too abrupt? Just as Enlin was immersed in his own fantasies, Su Xiaolan spoke again. Didn't you say that you had something to confess to me after encountering the heavenly void beast? What is it? Enlin's heart jolted upon hearing this. It was already time for the main event. Would he be beaten to death by Su Xiaolan if he told her? Enlin composed himself and pretended to speak in a casual manner. Ahem, Xiaolan, what if I told you that I formed a connection with a little whale by chance, and it insisted on calling me daddy? What would you think? Su Xiaolan faltered slightly upon hearing this before her eyes widened, and she drew a sharp intake of breath as a hint of incredulity appeared in her voice. What did you just say? Say it again. Chapter 584. A whale is calling you daddy? You're into that. Su Xiaolan's slender hand gripped the teacup, and a small crack immediately appeared on the magic tool teacup due to her poor control of her strength. This was a clear indication of just how volatile her emotions were. No, that's not the point. Why you did that to the whale? She stared at Enlin with incredulity on her face, and a deep blush appeared on her face. In order to prevent Su Xiaolan from going berserk, Enlin immediately offered an explanation. Don't be in such a hurry. I'll tell you everything. Enlin didn't dare to hide anything from her, and he recounted how he had stolen the Heavenly Void Beast's fertility spell technique, how he had used that power, and how the Heavenly Void Beast had given birth to a baby Heavenly Void Beast. Su Xiaolan's expression eased significantly after hearing the entire story, but there was still a hint of melancholy in her eyes. She heaved a forlorn sigh. Your trip to the ancient Tai Chu realm shore was fruitful. Not only do you have a beast pet, a disciple, and even a child, and Lin knew that now was not the time to refute Su Xiaolan's words. The most important thing was to express his sincerity, so he immediately brought out a golden immortal fruit from his storage ring. Su Xiaolan, this is a 5th grade immortal fruit I obtained in the ancient Tai Chu realm, the 6th Revolution Phoenix fruit. If a user with a fire-type bloodline consumes this fruit, it will help them observe the intent of the Tao of Fire, and it will also enhance and purify their flame power bloodline. I think it will be quite useful to you, so please accept it. Su Xiaolan accepted the immortal fruit and sensed the pure flame power imbued within it. The golden light emanating from the immortal fruit made her features appear even more beautiful. I didn't think you would still remember to bring me a present. Of course, Enlin replied with a smug expression. Also, that snow soul beast, I'll give it to you if you like it. It's a little despicable and likes to spout nonsense, but it's quite a good pet. Su Xiaolan quickly waved her hands. Forget it. I'll leave it with you. You already have so many pet beasts anyway. It's not a bad idea to have them all in one nest. If I like it, I'll go over to your place and hug it. Okay. And Lin didn't refuse. In any case, he could just let his pet beast be. He couldn't be bothered to worry about it. Thus, the two of them began to talk about other things. It appeared that Xiaolan was quite understanding and didn't dwell too much on the little whale matter, and in Lin heaved an internal sigh of relief upon seeing this. After that, their conversation was very harmonious. The two of them seemed to have forgotten about the time. Only the sounds of laughter could be heard coming from outside the pavilion. Tina, Shui Zhantian, and Xiao Zhe were getting a little bored waiting outside, and they began to look for things to do. Hey, there seems to be someone singing over there. Tina looked toward the nearby pavilion with a curious expression, and she hesitated momentarily before following the direction of the voice. Isn't that Master's house? He told us to wait for him to come out before we go in together, Xiao Zhe said. However, Tina couldn't hold herself back. She was going to go in sooner or later anyway, so what difference did it make? She flew toward the direction of the voice and landed on a windowsill in the pavilion, where a little red flower was swaying joyfully under the light of the setting sun. It was photosynthesizing as it sang a pleasant song. Don't be fooled by the fact that I'm just a sheep. The grass is more fragrant because of me. The sky is bluer because of me, and the clouds are softer because of me. Tina flew toward the little red flower and raised her pristine, pointy ears as curiosity and amazement appeared in her green eyes. Wow, a little red flower that can sing. How interesting. Xiao Hong's singing voice faltered as she looked toward the little red flower with astonishment in her voice. Wow, it's a little person with wings, and it's so adorable and beautiful. Xiao Hong had never seen a fairy before. At this moment, Tina was twice as tall as she was, but in her eyes, Tina was still a little person. Tina giggled. Perhaps it was due to the fact that all fairies had a natural affinity for plant life forms, but she was quite fond of Xiao Hong. She immediately nodded in agreement. That's right. I'm a tiny person, and Lin is a giant. Xiao Hong's head faltered slightly upon hearing this. Huh, you know Lin as well? That's right. My name is Tina, and I'm his fifth beast pet, Tina replied with a smug expression. Xiao Hong. So Master went to the ancient Tai Chu realm to kidnap this little girl as his beast pet? Xiao Hong thought to herself as a vibrant smile appeared on her face. Nice to meet you. My name is Xiao Hong, and I'm also Lin's beast pet. Ah, so you're Big Boss Hong. Tina let loose a cry of surprise as she stared blankly at the little red flower before her. She had only ever heard Lin mention Xiao Hong's name and how she ranked number 1 among his beast pets. In her mind, Lin's first beast pet had to be an extremely powerful and domineering queen, Red Queen. However, she didn't think that Big Boss Hong would be such an adorable little red flower. Did Master give you a pet name? Xiao Hong asked with a curious expression. Pet name? Tina faltered slightly upon hearing this before a smile appeared on her face. He calls me Little Na. Xiao Hong. Master is so good to you. Tina was at a loss as to why Xiao Hong was suddenly in such low spirits. Dabai, Xiao Cho, Little Wolf, come out and receive our guest. We have a new member. Xiao Hong suddenly yelled in her sweet voice. A commotion erupted within the dorm room. Immediately afterward, Dabai, Xiao Cho, and Little Wolf all gathered around the windowsill before peering outside with curiosity in their eyes. They were greeted by the sight of a little person in a fluttering white dress with a pair of golden wings on her back. Her features were so perfect that it was tempting to look at them with curiosity in her gem-like eyes. Let me introduce you guys. This is Tina. Master brought her back. She's the 5th, so you can just call her Little Na. Xiao Hong introduced in her sweet voice. Then this is Dabai, this is Xiao Cho, and this is Little Wolf. Gasp. What a beautiful girl. Dabai drew a sharp intake of breath as he stared at Tina. His eyes glowed with excitement. Gasp. What an ugly giant god fiend. Tina also drew a sharp intake of breath as she stared at Xiao Cho. Xiao Cho, is she talking about me? What did I do wrong? Why is this the first thing she's saying? I didn't say anything, so why did I get shot? Just as Xiao Cho was sighing with grief, Xiao Zhe carried Shui Zhantian to the windowsill before looking at all the beast pets in the room with curiosity in his eyes. All of the beast pets in the room were also drawn to Xiao Zhe and Shui Zhantian. In particular, Shui Zhantian's adorable appearance attracted the attention of almost all of the beast pets in the room. Gasp! What an adorable Qiu. Dabai drew a sharp intake of breath as he stared at Shui Zhantian. Gasp! What an ugly monkey! Shui Zhantian drew a sharp intake of breath as he stared at Xiao Chou. Xiao Chou, so what exactly did I do wrong? Chapter 585. Before they knew it, Enlin and Su Xiaolan chatted for a long time. When Enlin came out, the sky had already darkened, and the moon slowly appeared in the night sky along with the specks of stars. He didn't see Xiao Zhe, Shui Zhantian, or Tina outside the door, and he faltered slightly. He then seemed to have sensed something, and he turned toward the brightly lit pavilion next to Su Xiaolan's. Enlin pushed open the door, and the living room was bustling with activity under the illumination of the candlelight. Shui Zhantian was being happily patted around by Dabai and Little Lang like a fur ball. Shui Zhantian was yelling at Enlin to stop them, but a peculiar blush appeared on his furry face. It had to be said that both wolves and dogs had an extremely peculiar fondness for ball-type toys. Xiao Hong and Tina were standing by the window and whispering to each other. I can photosynthesize just by activating my cultivation method, like this. Tina's semi-transparent golden wings were fully extended, and a faint light radiated from them as a faint energy began to accumulate. That's right, we can still photosynthesize for another 15 minutes before the sun completely disappears. Xiao Hong swayed her head with excitement. Xiao Chou stood off to the side with an expression of disappointment and sorrow on his face, as if he had been dealt a heavy blow. Xiaoza, on the other hand, was trying to enlighten him like an old man. The young man's youthful face, paired with this expression, gave off a strange contrast of cuteness. A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face. This kind of atmosphere made him feel very warm. He had initially planned to introduce his new beast pets one by one, but he didn't think that they would already be familiar with each other, which saved him a lot of effort. Big brother, and you're finally back, woof. Dabai immediately pounced toward Enlin with excitement. Enlin stroked Dabai's head with a buoyant smile. It's only been a month, and you're already so happy to see me? Dabai stuck out his tongue and licked Enlin's face. Of course, I have to thank Big Brother and for recruiting 2 more underlings for me. Woof. Enlin's face twitched. So this was what Dabai was happy about. He sensed carefully. After a month, Dabai's aura had become stronger. He should not be far from comprehending his personal domain. Xiao Hong's half-step soul formation stage had already stabilized, and with the help of the blood god Jade, her domain should be more or less complete. She could now take the final step toward the soul formation stage. However, the one who had improved the most was the white-scaled wolf god. When it had emerged from the vermilion bird trial grounds with Enlin, it was already at the pinnacle of the true force stage. After leaving its original world and coming to the celestial court, which was an extremely suitable cultivation environment, it had broken through to the return to void stage 10 days ago. He heard that Vice Principal Yuhua had helped him a lot during his tribulation transcendence. He had to find some time to thank him. Master, I heard that I have underlings now, and there are 3 return to void stage blood tribe mighty figures. Is that true? Little Lang ran toward Enlin with an obedient expression as it wagged its tail with elation. Enlin stroked Little Lang's white fur with a smile. That's right. I'll introduce them to you when the opportunity presents itself. You're the big boss, so you have to be a good role model. Little Lang took a deep breath as its eyes lit up with excitement. Don't worry, I'll be sure to do that. He had managed to subdue 3 return to void stage mighty figures as his servants after just 1 trip to the other world. Such a powerful being. The white-scaled wolf god had chosen the right person. Enlin sat down on a chair and clapped his hands together. Come on, it's time for me to distribute the benefits. The eyes of Dabai, Shui Zhantian, and the other beast pets all lit up upon hearing this, and they all gathered around Enlin. Xiao Hong couldn't be bothered to move. and it continued to photosynthesize. Tina also began to photosynthesize beside Xiao Hong upon seeing this. And Lin's face convulsed upon seeing this. How could he lead little Na astray so quickly? This was intolerable. No, he had to teach Tina, who had the most authority in this family. Ahem. And Lin coughed lightly before turning to the two figures on the windowsill with a stern expression. Xiao Hong, little Na, what are you two doing? Master is about to distribute the benefits. Hurry up and come over. Don't worry about me. Just let me photosynthesize. Xiao Hong replied in her sweet voice. Big sister Xiao Hong said that the sun is extremely precious every day and must not be wasted. We have to grab onto the last bit of light and heat from the sun. Otherwise, if we miss this opportunity, we'll never be able to come back, Tina chimed in. And Lin's chest constricted upon hearing this. Don't worry, the sun will rise again tomorrow. You can continue photosynthesizing. Xiao Hong shook her head. That's different. Tomorrow's sun is tomorrow's sun, and today's sun is today's sun. Every bit of light and heat only exists in that time and space, and they are irreplaceable. Wow, big sister Xiao Hong is right. Tina clapped her hands in admiration, as if she had already been won over by Lin's theory. And Lin, big brother, and ignore those two and distribute the benefits to us, woof. Dabai urged with an excited expression, and Lin nodded with a resigned expression before gripping his storage ring. The storage ring flashed, and 120 spirit pills and 120 spirit fruits appeared on the table and the ground, all of which exuded an alluring light. Dabai, Xiao Cho, Little Lang, and Little Tian, you guys take 20 spirit pills and spirit fruits each. Long live Master. Woof. Dabai pounced over excitedly and began making a selection. Master is so generous to help those in need. Shui Zhantian also pounced over and picked out the ice-type spirit pills and spirit fruits. Xiao Cho and Little Lang also ran over to the pile of spirit pills and spirit fruits to pick out what they wanted. Were the spirit pills and spirit fruits valuable? Of course they were. Even the entire fortune of a soul formation stage cultivator wouldn't be worth 20 spirit pills and 20 spirit fruits. This benefit was equivalent to each of the beast pets receiving the entire fortune of a soul formation stage cultivator. So how could they not be excited? Dabai, Xiao Cho, Little Lang, and Little Tian all wore satisfied expressions after picking out the spirit pills and spirit fruits they wanted. Little Xiao, give the remaining 40 spirit pills and spirit fruits to Xiao Hong and Tina, and Lin instructed. Xiao Zhe nodded with a smile before unleashing a spell technique to deliver the spirit pills and spirit fruits to Tina and Xiao Hong. Tears welled up in Tina's eyes as she stared at Lin in astonishment. Giant and Lin, can I also get 20 spirit pills and 20 spirit fruits? And Lin nodded with a smile. Of course. I told you we're family from now on. This was the time for Lin to display his true magnanimity and authority. It didn't matter how Xiao Hong and Tina treated him. He could forgive them no matter how bad their attitudes were. Furthermore, his attitude toward Little Red and Tina didn't change at all, sure enough. Tina was already sobbing uncontrollably as she wiped away her tears with her slender little hands. Even Xiao Hong withdrew her flower and spirit fruits before dragging Tina toward Lin with her little green hands. Let's go, Little Na. There's no sun now. Huh? No way, I could still sense a little bit of the sun when I used the cultivation method you taught me. Tina was a little perplexed. Xiao Hong dragged Tina over to the beast pets before speaking in a sweet voice. It's just a little bit, so it's okay. It's warmer here. Chapter 586. And Lin was quite elated to see Xiao Hong and Tina make their way over to him. He continued, the spirit pills and spirit fruits are only the appetizers. There's still more to come. So many spirit pills and spirit fruits were only the appetizers? There was still more to come? All of the beast pets were extremely excited, and even their breathing had become a lot heavier. First up is Tina. You can have that heart lotus ice sword. I don't have any use for it anyway. Also, take this holy ice lotus and nourish it with the heart lotus ice sword. It'll give the immortal tool a chance to advance to a higher rank. and Lin brought out a lotus with holy aura revolving around it from his storage ring and handed it to Tina. Tina was extremely touched as she accepted the holy ice lotus. If it weren't for the fact that she was a little shy at the sight of so many beast pets, she would definitely have given Lin a big hug. Next up is Shuezhantian. These are 3 8th-grade immortal fruits. The red ice immortal fruit is for you. It's very useful for improving your ice-type cultivation base, as well as strengthening your soul and allowing you to observe the power of ice. You're already at the pinnacle of the true power stage, so you should learn from Little Lang and break through to the return to void stage as soon as possible. And Lin brought out 3 red and white immortal fruits from his storage ring. Don't worry, Master. I'll definitely work hard and forge ahead. Shuezhantian was drooling at the sight of these immortal fruits, and he immediately pounced toward them. And Lin nodded before bringing out a bronze dagger from his storage ring and handing it to Dabai. Dabai, this is an ancient artifact, the Shield of Promised Victory. It's imbued with the power of the vow and the belief of victory, so it has extremely powerful protective abilities. Keep it for yourself. Dabai faltered slightly upon hearing this. What about you, big brotherin? Woof. And Lin smiled. I already have the Heavenly Ice Silkworm Garment, so I'll leave this one for you. He actually had another consideration, and that was that Dabai's cultivation base was still quite low. As such, it was better to protect Dabai first rather than strengthen his attacks. Touched, Dabai accepted the dagger and tucked it in his left pocket, using his dog fur to roll it up. And Lin took out a twisted golden object, which he had obtained in the ancient battlefield of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. This is the Vajra Soul. Little wolf, take it and refine it into your body. It can strengthen your physique and consolidate your realm. The white-scaled wolf god accepted the Vajra Soul with an excited expression. They were clearly servants, but Lin treated them like pet beasts. This made the white-scaled wolf god feel an indescribable sense of belonging. Lin then turned his gaze toward Xiao Chou. He brought out a suit of black armor and a semi-transparent bone from his storage ring. Xiao Chou, this is the black crystal armor. If you fuse it with your armor, you might be able to evolve it into an immortal tool. This is the ethereal spirit bone. Absorbing it will greatly increase the strength of your bones. And Lin had originally planned to use the void spirit bone for himself, but he already had the body of the war god, so this item was a little redundant. It was perfect for the clown. Xiao Chou was feeling a little gloomy, but a joyful smile finally appeared on his face when he saw these 2 items. All of the items Lin had given him were extremely precious, and all of them were very suitable for the beast pet's current situation, so they were able to provide for the beast pet's needs. This was not a coincidence. It was just that Lin simply had too many treasures. He just had to pick out a treasure that suited his pet beast's needs. And Lin finally turned to Xiao Hong, and he paused momentarily before pulling out a long sword from his storage ring. The long sword was entirely golden in color, but it was a very gentle golden color. As soon as it appeared in Lin's hand, a miniature golden crow appeared around the blade of the sword. Ice, fire, yin, and yang revolved around the blade of the sword, exuding a rich and powerful aura. This is the dancing heavenly sun sword, an intermediate rank immortal tool. It was forged from the dark glacial Tao enlightenment stone, which is the habitat of the golden crow, a mythological beast. It can reverse yin and yang and attain immortality. I recall that you inherited the golden crow from the purple star, right? This was an immortal tool that Lin had taken from the snow maiden Rogu. It could be used for both ice and fire types, but Xiao Hong's main cultivation was the golden crow, so it was clearly more suitable for her. All of the beast pets swallowed involuntarily at the sight of this immortal sword as they stared at it with scorching light in their eyes. It was quite clear that this was the most precious gift. This was an intermediate rank immortal tool. Even a Tao integration stage true god wouldn't give it away so easily. He had even given an elementary rank immortal tool to Tina. Perhaps only their nouveau riche master would have such boldness. Master, this is too precious. I think I can do it without a weapon. Xiao Hong spoke hesitantly. I don't need it anyway. I told you to take it, so just take it. And Lin shoved the long sword into Xiao Hong's hands with an earnest expression. Touch this sword when you have nothing to do. After all, it was forged from the Tao Enlightenment Stone, which the primordial mythological beast, the golden crow, rested on. Maybe you'll attain enlightenment just by touching it. Xiao Hong raised her crimson head, and a small droplet of water appeared on her flower. She nodded with an earnest expression. All right, I'll listen to you, master. And Lin clapped his hands with a smile. All right, that's all for now. If you need anything else, feel free to tell me. Even if I don't have it in my storage ring, I can buy it for you. I'm not short on money. All of the beast pets were extremely excited upon hearing this. It didn't matter if a master was rich or not. The most important thing was that he was generous, and that made him very popular. Long live Big Brother and Wolf. Dabai raised his paw high into the air and cheered. Long live Master. Little Lang chimed in. Immediately afterward, Xiao Chou, Shui Zhantian, Tina, and Xiao Hong also began to cheer. All of a sudden, the dorm room became a sea of raucous joy. A sense of accomplishment welled up in Lin's heart as he looked at all of his beast pets. Master, do I not have any benefits? Xiao Zhe tugged on Lin's sleeve with a pitiable expression. And Lin's expression faltered upon hearing this. Holy F***, CK. He had almost forgotten about this disciple of his. Ha! Of course not. I prepared something good for you. And Lin chuckled. Really? Xiao's eyes lit up and his face was full of anticipation. And Lin nodded as his mind raced. What should he prepare for his disciple? He was a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to void intermediate stage, and he was also a member of the primordial dragon tribe. What kind of treasures had he not seen? It seemed like it would be very difficult to find something that was suitable for him. Regal crown? No, he had to keep this for himself. Divine flame bead? That was even more impossible. That was a gift from Xiaolan. Heavenly frost bead? The dragon tribe didn't seem to be interested in ice-type weapons. Xiao Zhe was a little hesitant at the sight of Lin's contemplative expression. Master, have you not decided yet? Of course not. Lin waved his hand, and a light flashed from his storage ring. Immediately afterward, an extremely thick, immortal eel appeared before everyone. Even though it was already dead, the return to void stage aura emanating from its body still made everyone's breathing falter. This is for you, Lin said. Xiao Zhe's lips twitched. Master, didn't you take this immortal eel from my treasure vault? It felt a little weird to be giving something that belonged to him, and Lin chuckled as his storage ring flashed again, and a frying pan appeared. I'm not giving it to you right now. I'm going to cook a delicious meal for my disciple. Xiao Zhe shuddered upon hearing this, and he stared blankly at Lin. He was suddenly struck by a sense of home at the sight of Lin's warm smile. He had no family, no friends, but his master was here to accompany him. All of the beast pets' eyes also lit up. In particular, Dabai and Little Lang were drooling. This was a frying pan dish. The immortal eel was a return to void stage mighty figure, so its meat was extremely nutritious and had many incredible effects. That night, all of the beast pets had a super blissful feast. As for Xiao Zhe, he was on the verge of tears as he confessed that this was the most delicious meal he had eaten in tens of thousands of years. And Lin also smiled with elation at the sight of his joyous family. This kind of life really wasn't bad. Chapter 587. Breaking news. Breaking news. The Celestial Quartz Gold Medal Snack, Dubai's Stuffed Buns, will be on sale at a 50% discount tomorrow. 3,000 steamers of Dubai stuffed buns will be on sale on that day, and the purchase limit will be changed so that each student can purchase 10 steamers of stuffed buns. This news spread like wildfire throughout the entire Xiaoshan United University, creating a heated discussion. My God, I haven't had the chance to eat Dubai's stuffed buns for a month. I didn't expect happiness to come so suddenly. He's selling so many steamers of stuffed buns at the same time, and it's even at a 50% discount. Will they still taste as good as before? 500 spirit stones isn't a bad deal. Won't you find out after trying it tomorrow? Senior and Lin's products are definitely the best. He won't ruin his own reputation. Just as the students were discussing fervently, and Lin was sitting leisurely in the classroom, listening to the lecture. The long-awaited learning at the university allowed him to relax both physically and mentally. His state of mind was clear and natural, and even his efficiency in listening to the lecture was much higher. A little fairy in a fluttering white dress sat on Lin's shoulder, blinking her eyes curiously. It could be said that her appearance caused quite a stir in the class. Her petite and exquisite figure, as well as her features that were so perfect and holy that no one dared to even think of profanity, instantly caused Lin to turn his head to look at her several hundred times. What this meant was that she turned her head more than once. Some students couldn't help but turn their heads to look at the extremely beautiful little fairy even during the lecture. And Lin didn't want to be so ostentatious, but Tina insisted on coming to see what the lecture was like. With Vice Principal Yuhua's tacit approval, he brought this little fairy along. Today was a public pill refinement class, and the teacher, Yi Jia, was a rather renowned pill refinement master in the Kingdom of the Nine States. Xiaolin didn't need to attend pill refinement classes anymore. She was a soul creation stage pill refinement master, similar to teacher Yi Jia, which meant that she could also become a teacher at Xiaoxian United University. Tina listened very attentively in the lecture. She had never come into contact with the alchemy system before, but now it was as if she had opened the door to a new world, and her green eyes were glowing with vigor. She also often followed her teacher's demonstration, gathering white holy flames on her fingertips and practicing with him. She was even more serious than Lin when it came to learning. A light breeze occasionally blew in from outside the window, and a faint fragrance drifted over from Tina's direction. That was probably her unique scent, and it was quite refreshing. And Lin's alchemy skills were terrible, and he was only at the peak of the flame mastery state. However, since he had the frying pan, he decided to study hard. That was because immortal chefs and alchemy actually had something in common. The way in which various ingredients were cooked and the way in which alchemy could bring out the essence of medicinal ingredients was actually similar. He was the man who wanted to become the god of cooking, so he naturally couldn't miss out on the necessary learning. After class, Su Qinyun, Luo Zipping, Zhong Yongyin, Miao Tian, and the others all gathered around Tina with curiosity in their eyes. They surrounded Lin and asked him all kinds of questions. Tina had never been surrounded by so many giants before, and she immediately grabbed onto Lin's hair nervously as she shrunk back in fear and embarrassment. In the end, it was the gentle and considerate class rep Xianyuan Cheng who came out to maintain order. He chased away the onlookers and told them to calm down before he asked the questions as the student representative. And Lin knew that Big Brother Cheng was actually more curious than the other students, and this could be seen from the light in his eyes. And Lin thought about it for a moment before giving Big Brother Cheng a brief explanation of Tina's background. This interlude passed by quickly, and before they knew it, the day's lessons drew to a close. Tina had learned a lot, and she said that she was going to continue attending classes with Lin the next day. It felt a little weird for a return to Void Stage Fairy to always want to attend classes with a Soul Formation Stage teacher. However, everyone had their own specialties, so Lin didn't have any objections. That night, a huge table was set up in the dorm room. Today, Lin was going to have a good meal with his friends. This trip to the ancient Tai Chu realm had been extremely perilous, so they naturally had to celebrate after successfully completing their mission. And Lin and Su Xiaolan were preparing the ingredients for a hot pot dinner. The frying pan could only enhance the flavor of the hot pot for the first time, so the broth and ingredients were very particular. If they were prepared well, the hot pot could last for a very long time. Xianyuan Cheng, Su Qinyun, Tang Shimin, Lu Qianhuan, Yao Mingxi, Huguan, Yao Xiu, Lu Debeo, and the others all arrived in Lin's home, and they were all astonished by the scene before their eyes. Wow, what an adorable snow soul beast. Su Qinyun's bright blue eyes glowed with an unprecedented light. She completely disregarded her princess-like demeanor for the first time as she hurriedly rushed over and picked up Shui Zhantian. What a huge soul luo. Wait, not only is this soul luo huge, it even has wings. Lu Qianhuan also ran over with a vibrant smile on her face as she rubbed Shui Zhantian's body with her slender hands. Immediately afterward, Yao Xiao and Miao Tian also rushed over. Stupid woman, let go of me. If it weren't for Master, I wouldn't have allowed myself to be manipulated like this. Shui Zhantian's round body was rubbed into all kinds of shapes again as he was ravaged. Soul Luo, I'm Lakis. I tossed you onto student Xinyan's body. Can you pull me over? Lu Qianhuan asked with a wide grin. Shui Zhantian. Lin clasped his face in his hands. Lu Qianhuan was way too into character. However, he took a closer look at Shui Zhantian and found that he really did resemble the Soul Luo from the League of Valor. Elsewhere, Lin discovered that a bunch of grown men were staring at him with scorching eyes. Tang Shimin exclaimed in amazement, "You've fulfilled all of my fantasies of beauty." Lu Debao also sighed with emotion. "It's a pity that you're too small. Don't say that. Can't you see that he's already feeling a little embarrassed?" Yao Mingxi advised. Lin knew that these men weren't looking at him. Instead, they were looking at Tina, who was perched on his shoulder. Tina's beauty was already comparable to Chong, Yi's, and she was also a cute and adorable fairy, so it was no wonder that these men were so amazed. After that, Lin introduced them to his disciple, Xiao Zhe. When they found out that Xiao Zhe was a primordial dragon tribe mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to void intermediate stage, they were dumbstruck. Thankfully, they had been through a lot of scares during their time with Lin, so their hearts were quite resilient. Thus, they were able to quickly recover and enjoy this hot pot meal. At the dining table, everyone discussed their dreams. Tang Shimin announced his goal, which was to attain his domain before graduation. Everyone felt like he was a lazy bum, and he sobbed with tears streaming down his face. This was the power that the #1 prodigy of the cohort should possess. He was under a lot of pressure from hanging out with a bunch of supremely talented prodigies. Lu Qianhuan was about to graduate, and she was hesitating between returning to her sect or staying in the Celestial Court. She also had an idea, which was to go to Earth and design a game that was popular all over the world. There was nothing wrong with being a cheater and becoming a game designer. Xinyuan Cheng dreamed of building a new sect. Su Qinyan dreamed of capturing a snow soul beast in 500 years, and Lu Debao dreamed of returning to the sect for free one day. Everyone chatted and drank to their heart's content. Perhaps many years later, they would be able to recall this night and recall the simple dreams they had spoken of. It was such a beautiful night. Chapter 588. The next day, all 3,000 steamers of Dubai's stuffed buns were sold out. Everyone in the Celestial Court was eating stuffed buns for breakfast. There were students who hadn't eaten stuffed buns for a long time and wanted to eat their fill. Students who thought the buns were too expensive and were now taking advantage of the 50% discount. Students and teachers who were loyal stuffed bun lovers. These were the people who made Dubai's stuffed buns sell out in less than 2 hours. Lin created a sales legend as a result, earning a whopping 1.5 million spirit stones in a single day. These were all stuffed buns that he had steamed in the ancient Taichu realm before storing in his storage ring. It was all thanks to the frying pan that Lin was able to continue to generate wealth. On this day, Lin took Tina to class, as usual, to satisfy her curiosity and thirst for knowledge. Meanwhile, Xiaoza found a place to study the history of the Tai Chu continent in order to better understand this world. Shui Zhantian was taught all kinds of spell techniques by the white-scale wolf god. Both of them were savage beasts, so they shared a common language. The other beast pets weren't idling around either. All of them were taking advantage of the superb cultivation environment in the heavenly court to continue their cultivation. After a day of classes, Lin had completely recovered, and he decided to carry out his final plan, which was to complete the system mission for the body of the war god. It took an hour to absorb 1 golden realm essence crystal. It would take over 4 days to absorb 100 golden realm essence crystals. Lin had even applied for a leave of absence for this. On a certain mountain peak within Xiaoxian United University, Tina spread open her arms and a white barrier of light appeared around them, isolating them from the outside world. And Lin looked up at the figure in the jade dress before him with a smile. Xiaolan, this is the territory of the Celestial Court, and Tina is here to protect me, so you don't have to worry. Su Xiaolan sat on a white rock and gazed at the scenery in the distance. A few strands of her jet-black hair fluttered in the wind, revealing her beautiful and serene profile. She placed a long sword by her side with a smile on her face. What? I've only just arrived, and you're already chasing me away? And Lin immediately waved his hands. Of course not. I didn't mean that. I just didn't want you to waste your time here. It's not a waste of time. I'm just curious, so I came to see you. Su Xiaolan turned to point at the glittering golden beauty, and a sharp light flashed through her eyes. Then, you have to explain to me what this thing is. And Lin wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. While he was absorbing the Golden Realm Essence Crystal, Su Xiaolan had come to visit him. He looked at Su Xiaolan with a sincere expression. This is my disciple's fault. I'm only responsible for absorbing the Realm Essence Crystals. This kind of hobby really has nothing to do with me. Tina can testify for me. You're right, Jine and Lin. Tina nodded in affirmation. All right, I'll believe that you don't have that kind of fetish. You go ahead. I'll leave after a while. Su Xiaolan pursed her lips, and Lin heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing that Su Xiaolan really wasn't angry or disdainful. He then began to focus on absorbing the energy within the Golden Realm Essence Crystals. Time passed by slowly, and nothing out of the ordinary happened. From time to time, beast pets or friends would come over to check on him, and Lin's body was like a bottomless pit that could absorb energy from the Golden Realm Essence Crystals without any limit. On the fourth night, 9 pillars of light suddenly shot into the sky from a certain mountain on the campus of Xiaoxian United University. The entire continent began to tremor, and countless students raised their heads to look at the pillars of light in the distance. Red flames, golden sharpness, blue waves, green vitality, and yellow aura. These 5 pillars of light were the most dazzling, and they shot straight into the heavens like gargantuan pillars. They then formed an extremely fearsome energy formation in the sky before converging together and crashing down toward the ground. The 2 pillars of light of wind and lightning were like coiling dragons, one of which was bright and the other dark, creating a beautiful contrast between yin and yang. This time, the commotion didn't just affect the students. Even countless teachers were alarmed. They all rose into the air and flew toward the source of the pillars of light. The closer they got, the more they could sense just how powerful the aura was. One after another, the pillars of light flew toward the source of the pillars of light. This aura is way too terrifying. Is it a cultivation method or a divine ability? Sigh. Which mighty figure came to our university to cultivate? Why didn't they inform us in advance? Could it be that the principal has returned? I think I know who it is. A tall and slender woman in fashionable clothes, sitting atop a book, spoke as she adjusted her red-rimmed glasses. She suddenly recalled a certain student in her class who wanted to apply for leave to cultivate. Teacher Yuing, who is he? A teacher asked. He's in Lin, Yuing replied. All the teachers, holy F***CK, it's him again. But if it's him, then it makes sense. A faint white barrier of light enshrouded the center of the 9 pillars of light, isolating it from the detection and intrusion of outsiders. The pillars of light didn't last for long before they began to dissipate. However, the powerful aura emanating from the figure at the center of the white barrier of light did not disappear. Lin had already made his way out of the white barrier of light, and the ancient golden seal on his forehead flashed incessantly. At that moment, all the spectators, regardless of whether they were students or teachers, were struck by the domineering aura of absolute supremacy. Shui Zhantian fell to his knees again upon seeing this, and his round body sprawled onto the ground. Even Xiao Zhe was extremely astonished. Not only could he sense a domineering aura emanating from Lin's body, but he could also sense an aura of eternity and immortality. And Lin withdrew his aura, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. I'm invincible. He turned towards Su Xiaolan, who was standing alone nearby. Su Xiaolan, slash me. Whoosh. Su Xiaolan drew her long sword as flames burst forth from its scabbard. A golden sword projection flashed through the sky, crashing down upon Enlin with the power to incinerate all things. The sword projection, which was imbued with the power of the vermilion bird, lit up heaven and earth as its terrifying temperatures caused the space around it to twist and warp, and all the plants within a radius of over a kilometer were instantly reduced to ashes. And Lin's pupils contracted at the sight of the terrifying sword projection. In the next instant, his body was inundated by golden flames, and a massive mountain behind him was sliced in half. Gasp! Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath. What a terrifying sword projection! Was he really trying to King kill someone? This couple sure has a unique way of interacting. Dioscoria Kankangensis wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and calmed himself down with a smile. What I'm more concerned about right now is whether classmate Enlin is dead or not. Flying Sword God spoke with a concerned expression. Shui Zhantian was also given a huge fright. You reap what you sow. Master, is your habit of seeking abuse as soon as you make a breakthrough ultimately going to get you killed? In the distance, Vice Principal Yuhua looked on at the slowly collapsing mountain with a sense of weariness in his heart. He felt like it was time to come up with a school rule for protecting the environment. Otherwise, if these freaks continued to wreak havoc every day, the university's scenic spots would be destroyed sooner or later. Why didn't he realize that students were so destructive? Cough, cough. Holy F***CK. Xiaolan, are you trying to murder your husband? And Lin crawled up from a pile of rubble with an extremely disheveled expression. Su Xiaolan stared at Enlin with a hint of surprise on her face. Huh? Your skin is so thick now? Whoosh! Another sword projection sliced through the sky. This time, an extremely vast and transcendent power was imbued within the sword projection. Everyone felt as if they could see a white holy beast with its wings spread open as it pounced directly toward Enlin. No! Enlin yelled as his body was completely submerged within the sword projection. The white flaming sword slashed across several miles, like a white light that could burn the heavens. Everything in its path was destroyed, and several mountain peaks in the distance were also chopped off. Vice Principal Yuhua was a little dumbstruck by the scenes unfolding before him. He couldn't care less about anything else as he charged over to stop this earth-shattering domestic violence. Chapter 589. All of the students who didn't know what was going on were shocked by the terrifying sword strike. Even those who were close to Su Xiaolan and Enlin were shocked. My God, did Enlin get into a fight with Xiaolan? Su Qianyun covered her mouth with a hand as she stared at the events unfolding on the mountain with astonishment on her face. I feel like there's something fishy going on here. Weren't they on good terms before this? Qianyuan Cheng pondered this for a moment. A faint smile appeared on Lu Qianyuan's face. They're just courting death. What kind of person would tell others to attack them after mastering a divine technique? It's no wonder that Xiaolan is mad at you for using such a method to express your joy. Is no one concerned about whether classmate Enlin is dead or not? Tang Shimin asked with a shocked expression. Everyone rolled their eyes at Tang Shimin, but didn't say anything. Tang Shimin, Enlin's figure appeared again amid a cloud of dust. His clothes were in tatters, but his skin was completely unscathed. Stop, Xiaolan, that's enough. As soon as they met, he immediately waved his hand. After Su Xiaolan's vermilion bird bloodline was infused into her sword strike, its power was comparable to that of a return to void stage cultivator. Even so, it was unable to leave a single mark on Enlin's body. No way, he's still fine? Su Xiaolan was truly astonished this time. Her brows perked up as the dragon sparrow sword in her hand began to ring again, and an even more terrifying aura began to emanate from it. Wait! Right at this moment, a middle-aged man with bushy eyebrows and large eyes appeared beside Su Xiaolan and intervened. Stop fighting. It's not good to injure the flowers and plants in a battle like this. If you really want to fight and flirt, do it outside of the school. Su Xiaolan blushed upon hearing this. and she silently sheathed her longsword. Lin heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing this, and he turned to Vice Principal Yuhua with a grateful expression. The Vice Principal of Yuhua glared at Lin and warned, "If you cause any mountain to collapse again, you will have to pay for it." And Lin's face twitched. "Why are you looking at me like that? Shouldn't you be saying that to Su Xiaolan?" This farce quickly calmed down, and everyone left with some unsatisfied expressions on their faces. I didn't expect classmate Su Xiaolan to be so strong already. The magnificence of that sword strike was much more powerful than our sword immortal teacher. Senior Lin's skin is really thick. He actually didn't get injured after taking that sword attack head on. What's the point? None of them are fighting back. How boring. Where's my god, and who's always throwing insults at heaven and earth? I agree. I also want to see the two of them fight. It must be very exciting. I feel that ever since the free-for-all battle, Senior Lin's style has changed. He's been a coward all the way. Could it be that Godin obtained the inheritance of the turtle? Bullshit. Since he's so powerful, he must have inherited at least the Xianwu level. Su Xiaolan made her way over to Lin's side and poked his muscles with a finger. They were a little tough and a little bouncy, and they didn't feel any different from normal. She asked curiously, "What kind of divine ability did you cultivate? How come it's so powerful?" And Lin puffed out his chest with a smug smile. "It's called the body of the war god." Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes. "What a tacky name." She then asked, "So your skin is so thick, can you still feel pain?" "Of course. When you slashed me just then, it hurt a lot. It's just that there are no scars." And Lin was telling the truth. Pain had nothing to do with whether or not his skin had been sliced open. He was hoping that Su Xiaolan would comfort him after saying this. To his surprise, Su Xiaolan heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. "It's all right, Lin." The phenomenon of heaven and earth brought about by Lin's body of the war god once again created a massive stir in the entire campus. As for the person in question, Lin had already returned to his dorm room with Su Xiaolan and the others. In order to celebrate his successful seclusion, he held another frying pan banquet. In reality, this couldn't really be called seclusion. After all he did was absorb, and he managed to cultivate a divine ability, and Lin hadn't even tried going into seclusion, and there was no need for him to do so anyway. At the frying pan banquet, the Immortal Spirit Tower is going to open tomorrow, and it's open for 3 days. Do you guys want to go? Tang Shimin asked as he ate. Immortal Spirit Tower? What's that? And Lin's expression turned blank. A warm smile appeared on Xin Yuan Cheng's face. "And Lin, you were in seclusion for a few days, so I'll tell you about it. The Immortal Spirit Tower is located in a restricted area of our campus, and there are wisps of divine intents left behind by the mighty sages of the Celestial Court within the tower. Students can unleash their divine intents into the tower to battle against these mighty figures. Generally speaking, only fifth-year students have an opportunity to enter the Immortal Spirit Tower before graduation. However, third-year and fourth-year students who have reached the spirit-nurturing final stage can also enter the tower. And Lin's curiosity was piqued. Then what are the benefits of entering the Immortal Spirit Tower to battle mighty figures? The Immortal Spirit Tower has a total of 99 levels, and you'll receive additional spirit stones and pills from the Celestial Court for every level you advance to. Tang Shimin replied with a smile. Is there anything else? Filthy rich and didn't really care about these things. Tang Shimin's face convulsed slightly upon seeing Lin's expression. As long as you can pass level 80, you'll be inducted into the university's Hall of Fame. Oh, I was already inducted into the Hall of Fame when I was a first-year university student. Is there anything else? Lin had been inducted into the Hall of Fame as an exception, so he didn't think much of it. Tang Shimin almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He paused for a moment before continuing. If your aptitude is exceptional and you receive the acknowledgement of the divine intents of the mighty figures on the 80th level or higher, then you'll have a chance to receive their spell techniques. And Lin's interest was finally piqued here, and his eyes lit up. Senior student Tang, which level did you reach? Su Qinyun turned to Tang Shimin with curiosity in her mellow voice. A smug smile appeared on Tang Shimin's face. I'm sorry, but I made it to level 70. I came first in our third-year university. Oh, everyone in the room exclaimed in surprise. That's because aside from him, Zhuo Xiaobing was the only other spirit-nurturing final-stage cultivator in our third-year university. The two of them came first in the competition. Shoo! There was a wave of disdain in the room. Tang Shimin, then Lu Qianhuan, you were a fourth-year university student at the time, right? What level did you reach? Su Qianyan turned to look at Lu Qianhuan curiously. 87. Lu Qianhuan pursed her lips in resignation. Oh, that's so impressive. Another wave of exclamations erupted in the room. Much more impressive than senior student Tang. You can't say that about senior student Tang. After all, he's only a spirit-nurturing final-stage cultivator. That's true. We're all at least half-step soul formation stage cultivators, so we should be able to make it past level 70. Let's aim for level 80 and enter the Hall of Fame. That's right. If senior student Tang can make it to level 70, why can't we? Su Xiaolan, Su Qianyun, Xianyuan Cheng, and the others all looked at each other with knowing smiles on their faces. Tears streamed down Tang Shimin's face as he felt like he had been dealt a heavy blow to his heart. Couldn't they just talk like normal people? Did they have to do this? At the same time, he was also feeling extremely remorseful. Why did he have to flex in front of these freaks? Everyone chatted as they ate, and they all decided to go to the Immortal Spirit Tower the next day. This was a free opportunity, after all. Chapter 590. Early in the morning, within a restricted area of Xiaoxian United University, there were layers of chains that resembled clouds and mist that sealed off the space within a radius of 15 kilometers. In that sealed space, there was an incomparably huge, towering green celestial pagoda. The Immortal Pagoda had a total of 99 levels. The bottom level was the most spacious with a radius of 1.5 kilometers, which was more than enough to accommodate 10,000 students. As the pagoda rose higher and higher, each level became narrower and narrower until the top level was only about 5 kilometers in radius. At this moment, there were already 10,000 students gathered outside the pagoda. All of them were fifth-year students who were about to graduate. Stuffed buns. Freshly made stuffed buns ignored by Dubai. The sudden peddler was so out of place with the surrounding atmosphere. And Lin was selling stuffed buns ignored by Dubai in the restricted area. Due to the fact that the Immortal Spirit Tower had opened earlier than usual, and Lin had no choice but to switch to selling stuffed buns. No matter when or where, one could never give up on one source of wealth. This was a fundamental principle that Filthy Rich adhered to. And Lin's appearance created quite a stir within the restricted area. Huh, isn't that classmate in Lin? He's selling stuffed buns here. He's probably here to participate in the Immortal Spirit Tower. He's already a third-year student, so selling stuffed buns is probably just a passing coincidence. I was just worried that I wouldn't be able to eat stuffed buns ignored by Dubai today. Let's go buy some as well. Many students swarmed toward Lin, and soon, all of Lin's stuffed buns had been sold out. Some of the students even began to shed tears as they ate the stuffed buns. And Lin was given a massive fright upon seeing this. He knew that his stuffed buns were delicious, but wasn't it a little bit of an exaggeration to say that they were so delicious that they made people cry? Could it be that they were so disgusting that they were crying? Right at this moment, his question was answered by the complaints of the students. Wow, these stuffed buns are so delicious. Yeah, I won't be able to eat such delicious stuffed buns after graduation. Sigh. The stuffed buns ignored by Dubai are a specialty of the Alliance of Cultivation after all. I have to buy some before I leave and store them in my storage ring. And Lin understood now. It turned out that the fifth-year seniors were about to graduate, and at a specific location, touching something hurt. Although they said they couldn't bear to part with steam bun, they probably just couldn't bear to leave this school. They also couldn't bear to part with their classmates, friends, and teachers for cultivators. 5 years was like the blink of an eye. But could it really be calculated in this way? And Lin had only spent 3 years at the university, but he had made many friends and made many precious and happy memories. Everything in the university had been very good, but after leaving the university, everything had changed. For the seniors, this was a farewell to the verdant and beautiful campus, so they would shed tears of sadness. With this in mind, Enlin couldn't help but turn his gaze toward Lu Qianhuan. She was also a fifth-year university student who was about to graduate. Lu Qianhuan had also bought a steamer full of stuffed buns and was currently enjoying them. Her little mouth wriggled, her fair and tender cheeks puffed up, and her lively purple eyes narrowed in happiness. She didn't seem to be affected by the emotions of her classmates as she continued to gorge on the buns in an adorable and alluring manner. Students, the Immortal Spirit Tower is about to be opened, so please gather here. An elderly man with an extremely vast aura stood in front of the Immortal Spirit Tower with a smile on his face. His name was Bai Zhong, and he was the guardian of this restricted area. His cultivation base was clearly at the return to void stage. After the assembly was complete, over 10,000 streams of divine intent shot forth from his hand before landing on each of the students. These were the entry passes for the students to enter the Immortal Spirit Tower, as well as the spell technique that would record the number of levels each student had reached. Within the Immortal Spirit Tower, all of your cultivation bases will be restricted to 1% of your original cultivation base, and you won't be able to use weapons, talismans, pills, or any other external objects. You can only use your own powers to battle the divine intents of the mighty figures of the past, Bai Zhong explained in a slow voice. His words were like a brand that was branded into the hearts of all the students, making it impossible for them to forget or ignore them. This was a rule that everyone was aware of, so they didn't pay much heed to it. Over 10,000 students poured into the first level of the Immortal Spirit Tower. The floor was paved with white jade stones, and it was extremely spacious. There were 4 huge cauldrons with flames burning in the 4 corners of the floor. Wow, this place is huge, Su Qianyun exclaimed as she surveyed her surroundings with curiosity in her eyes. Lu Qianhuan explained as if she had been through this before. The first 80 levels are all cleared in one go, but even if we're standing together, it's still a one-on-one battle, which means that there will be over 10,000 mighty figures unleashing their divine intents later. That's awesome. Su Qianyun blinked her dreamy eyes with an adorable expression. Boom! At this moment, a burst of mighty power descended from the sky, making all of the students feel as if their bodies had been completely emptied. The restrictive power of the Immortal Spirit Tower is beginning to appear. Tang Shimin looked up with battle intent surging from his body. Aside from all of the rewards available in the Immortal Spirit Tower, the opportunity to battle mighty figures of the past would be immensely beneficial to one's combat prowess, as well as their observation of Tao. All of a sudden, countless projections materialized in the sky. They were either wielding spears or swords, and all of them pounced toward the students on the ground below. All of these projections had targets in mind, and each of them corresponded to a student. The first 20 levels seemed to all be projections of divine intents from spirit-nurturing stage cultivators, Tang Shimin observed. Most of the 5th-year students were at the Tao body stage, so even with 99% of their power suppressed, it was still extremely difficult for them to face off against the projections of spirit-nurturing stage cultivators. Soon, there were some students who weren't fast enough and were slain by the projections of divine intents. Some of them had their chests punctured and fell unconscious. Generally speaking, the projections of divine intents couldn't kill, but they could knock students unconscious. Almost all of the students from the 100th class had been wiped out. There were also many casualties among the other classes, and some of them were caught up in fierce battles. A heroic spirit in the form of a female with long flowing hair and a spear in her hand pounced toward Enlin's heart. Enlin glanced at the woman, and his hand shot out like a gust of wind. He slapped the woman to the ground, and her body instantly disintegrated into nothingness. The projections of divine intents required a very long time to recover, and it required a lot of energy as well. This was also why the Immortal Spirit Tower was only opened once a year. After vanquishing all of the enemies around him, Enlin began to survey his surroundings. Close to 2,000 people had already fallen unconscious, 7,000 had already finished their battles, and there were still 1,000 people who were still engaged in fierce battles. For example, Su Xiaolan and Xin Yuan Cheng. They had all KO'd their opponents in a single exchange. 15 minutes later, there were only a few dozen people left. Another 15 minutes later, there were only a handful of people left. What was it like to have thousands of spectators spectating their battle? One of the female students was flushed with embarrassment, but she was still unable to defeat the projection of divine intents. She was on the brink of tears, and she felt extremely humiliated. In the end, she lost her composure and was cut down by the projection of divine intents. The female student finally broke down and fainted with tears of humiliation and indignation. Lin buried his face in his hands. What a tragedy. Another 15 minutes later, there was still a male student who had yet to finish his battle. That male student seemed to be very proficient in using vital energy to protect his body. Yellow vital energy materialized into a suit of indestructible armor. The projection of divine intents was unable to break through his defenses. His offensive prowess was insufficient, and he was unable to kill his opponent. Thus, the two of them were locked in a stalemate. Thump, 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 bang, bang, bang. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Puff, puff, puff. Time slowly passed by. I finally understand why the Immortal Spirit Tower takes so many days to open, and Lin spoke expressionlessly. Don't worry. Let's just watch the show. Xin Yuan Cheng offered words of consolation. I really want to help him. And Lin gritted his teeth. That works too, but you'll be eliminated. Lu Qinhuan heaved a forlorn sigh. Thus, over 7,000 students silently looked on as a male student battled with a projection of divine intents, creating an extremely peculiar scene. Chapter 591. There were so many students here, and not all of them had good tempers. They couldn't participate in the battle, but they could still talk. Hey, buddy, don't just focus on defense. Take the initiative and attack. Hit its waist, left side, now right side. Attack its lower body. Attack its lower body. Holy F *CK. Why are you so stupid? The male in the middle of the battle. In the beginning, there were several dozen instructors instructing him, but they soon discovered that the male didn't seem to understand anything at all. Slowly, the tone of the conversation began to change. Are you done yet? Just surrender if you can't do it. Wasting other people's time is the same as murdering them. You're murdering thousands of people. Is this a F * King Turtle? It's always on the defense. Did he learn this from Godin? Could it be that he's going to be a tortoise together with him? And Lin's body swayed violently upon hearing this. Who the F * CK was the one who said that? Come out, and I promise I won't beat you to death. Su Xiaolan and Su Qinyan had also heard this, and they couldn't help but burst into laughter. As the saying goes, a prolonged defense is bound to fail. In the end, it was the divine sense of the battle that broke through the man's Qi-Jin defense and pierced through his chest. The male closed his eyes in bliss. In the end, it was the divine intent of the battle that broke through the male's energy barrier and punctured his chest. The male closed his eyes in bliss. It was already a huge win for him to have thousands of students spectate one of his matches before he graduated. The gate to the second level of the Immortal Spirit Tower slowly opened, and everyone climbed up the stairs to the second level in no time. This time, over 7,000 divine intents converged in the air before pouncing toward the students on the ground below. And Lin also slapped the divine intent of the battle to death with a palm. The divine intents this time weren't much more powerful than the ones from last time, but over 1,000 students were still eliminated. Thus, the third level, the fourth level, the fifth level, to Lin and the other powerful seated participants, these divine intents could be taken care of in a single round. However, it took a long time for the other students to be defeated. On the 20th level, Lin also slapped the divine intent of the battle to death with a palm. He raised his head and looked around. Only 1,000 people were still fighting. And now, he had stayed in the tower for an entire day. The novelty brought about by entering the tower had already passed. And Lin and the others were bored to death and gathered together to gamble. And Lin spread out a pile of cards with numbers on them. There were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, all the way to 100. I'll bet on this trial ending in 30 minutes. Xinyuan Cheng pulled out 10,000 spirit stones from his storage ring and stacked them on the table. Haha. Lu Qianhuan chuckled disdainfully. Do you really expect these stupid students to finish their battle in 30 minutes? I bet more than 100 minutes. Then I'll also bet on more than 100 minutes. Su Qianyun pondered for a few seconds before deciding to follow Lu Qianhuan's lead. She placed 10,000 spirit stones on the 100 card. In reality, the odds of winning on the 100 minutes card were the highest. It was just that the odds were quite low. Su Xiaolan paused momentarily before placing 10,000 spirit stones on the 50 minutes card. I'll bet 50. I've never won this number before. Tang Shimin scratched his head. I'll bet 60. Lu Zhan took a deep breath. I'll bet 70. And Lin placed 10,000 spirit stones on the 100 card. I'll bet more than 100. Start the countdown. 30 minutes later, Xinyuan Cheng looked at the dozens of people still fighting on the platform with a resentful expression. Why do you always disappoint me? Don't you know how hard it is to earn money? 10,000 spirit stones. 50 minutes later, Su Xiaolan pursed her lips and looked at Enlin with a teary expression. Enlin smiled warmly. Don't worry, Xiaolan. I'm rich enough to make you lose a few thousand times. A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. I like what you're saying. I'll come back to you for more money when I run out of money. You can come back even if you have money. And Lin replied. Lu Qianhuan's expression darkened. You're already gambling, but you're still showing off to single people? Is that really a good idea? F*CK him up. F*CK him up. That's right. Tang Shimin roared with excitement. Everyone looked at the battle on the field with nervous expressions. Finally, after a series of intense rumbling sounds, the last divine sense warrior was shattered by a spell. Enlin looked at the time. It was quite clear that Tang Shimin, who had bet 60 points, had won. Ha ha, I'm not going to hold back then. Tang Shimin chortled like a 50-kilogram child as he swept away all the spirit stones in front of him. He had guessed very accurately these past few times, and he had already won a few times, so he was very happy. Of course, he was also happy because he could finally beat these supremely talented prodigies with his own strength, even though it was only in terms of gambling. But this was also one of his abilities. He was going to beat up anyone who said this wasn't a part of his strength. It had to be said that in Lin and the others' gambling was a very beautiful sight to behold in the Immortal Spirit Tower. Many students imitated their behavior. Some gambled on the time, while others gambled on the outcome of battle. In any case, there were all kinds of gamblers. It couldn't be helped. It was just too boring. Cultivate, you say? Come on, my strength has been restricted to 1% of my original strength. How the F*CK am I supposed to cultivate? And Lin and the others all heaved forlorn sighs at Tang Shimin's victory before continuing on to the next level. This time, the number of students had been reduced to around 1,000. These 1,000 students were the elite students of Xiaoxian United University, and even the weakest among them was of the 9th stage Dao body. On the 21st level, boom! Terrifying auras converged in the air, immediately following which a series of powerful divine intent battle masters began to appear. All of them had their own domains, which were either bone-chilling or scorching. And Lin was a little surprised. Looks like all of our opponents this time are divine intent battle masters of the half-step soul formation stage. Xinyuan Cheng nodded. Many students will be able to observe many things in advance by using them as opponents. Our university sure is generous. A man with gale force winds swirling around his body had already pounced toward Enlin as he spoke. Enlin raised a palm and slapped the man away again. Of course, it's still not going to be of much help to us. Xinyuan Cheng heaved a forlorn sigh before slashing his finger through the air toward the oncoming opponent, upon which he was sliced in half. Thus, the crowd began to gather and gamble again. This time, Big Brother Ching chose to trust his classmates, and he finally won once. The battle concluded after around 30 minutes. There was no helping it. Both sides were divine intent battle masters of the half-step soul formation stage, and the battle was extremely intense. Even if some of the students wanted to slack off, they wouldn't have enough energy to last that long. Big Brother Chung was extremely elated. It was as if his trust had been repaid. This time, the number of students decreased drastically from 1,000 to just over 600. Immediately afterward, from the 20th level all the way to the 30th level, there were only divine intent battle masters of the half-step soul formation stage. At the 31st level, there were only 200 people. On the 31st level, there were divine intent battle masters of the soul formation initial stage. And Lin slapped his opponent to end the battle again. On the 46th level, there were divine intent battle masters of the soul formation intermediate stage. And Lin slapped his opponent twice to end the battle. On the 61st level, there were divine intent battle masters of the soul formation final stage. And Lin slapped his opponent to death for 3 years. The 70th floor was also the floor where Senior Tang had suffered a grievous defeat. And Lin finally encountered some challenges. Chapter 592. On the 70th level of the Immortal Spirit Tower, there were only 8 people left standing. Lu Qianhuan, Lu Yuan, Tang Shimin, Zhui Qiubing, and Lin, Su Xiaolan, Xianyuan Cheng, and Su Qinyan. Tang Shimin looked up into the sky with a scorching light in his eyes. I'm no longer the same person I was a year ago. This time, I'm definitely going to pass the 70th level. And Lin was also getting a little excited. To be able to defeat Senior Student Tang a year ago, the divine intents on this level were most likely going to be quite powerful. Outside the Immortal Spirit Tower, a gigantic screen of water appeared in the air, displaying the scenes taking place within the Immortal Spirit Tower. There were still several thousand students who had already awakened, and all of them chose to spectate the battles taking place within the tower. Even though they were unable to participate in the battles in person, being able to spectate the battles between the prodigies and the divine intents would still be beneficial to their own cultivation. There are only 2 people left in our cohort. The third-year students are so freakishly talented. They've already made up half of the entire Immortal Spirit Tower. Do you guys think senior student Lu Yuan will be able to make it into the Hall of Fame? It'll be difficult. He's only at the spirit nurturing final stage. Just as all the students were discussing among themselves. Boom! Vital energy suddenly surged in the air above the Immortal Spirit Tower, and 8 extremely powerful figures appeared in the air. An excited expression appeared on Lin's face. All of these divine intents belong to return to Void Stage mighty figures. No wonder Senior Student Tang was defeated. In terms of power, they were on a completely different level. Even though this was only a wisp of divine intents, and Lin and the others were all weakened by 100-fold, so this was going to be a very challenging battle. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of something tearing through the air rang out, and the 8 divine senses immediately began fighting as soon as they appeared. The divine intents charging toward Lin was a man wielding a metal hammer. He swung the hammer down upon Lin with an extremely powerful aura, as if a mountain over 10,000 feet tall were crashing down upon Lin. And Lin's blood essence surged as he looked at the oncoming attack, and he felt as if the Earth Lotus Supreme skill within his body had been activated. This was the boundless power of the Earth. Evidently, the hammer-wielding man had also grasped a trace of this level of power. Good. And Lin was excited. This was the feeling of fighting against experts and accumulating combat experience. A golden lotus flower appeared on his forehead, and his Earth Lotus Supreme skill was activated on its own under the guidance of his body of the war god. His fist began to glow with a golden light, and a vast and powerful aura erupted forth, causing the space around him to congeal momentarily. This was the first time Lin had unleashed the power of the initial success stage of the body of the war god. He felt that the enemy in front of him was worthy of this move. As the hammer fell, distorted ripples appeared in the space, and Lin threw a punch directly at the iron hammer that was coming straight at him. The golden light carried boundless strength. Rumble! A deafening explosion resounded. The golden light collided with the hammer, and a terrifying shockwave erupted forth. The terrifying power imbued within the golden light instantly pulverized both the hammer and its wielder. Then, before the power of the golden light dissipated, it shot out in a straight line into the distance, leaving behind a shockingly powerful golden trail in the sky. Boom! Another deafening boom erupted. A sword-wielding woman was struck by the golden light, and her body flew back before crashing into the wall of the pagoda as her body slowly dissipated. Lin stared at the scenes unfolding before his eyes with a dumbstruck expression. I just killed a double kill. Tang Shimin was also dumbstruck. He gripped his long sword and stared blankly at Lin. His expression seemed to be saying, "Who am I? Where am I? How did my opponent suddenly die?" He was clearly in the middle of a fierce battle when his opponent was blasted to death by a streak of golden light. What was he supposed to do? Outside the Immortal Spirit Tower, all of the students also drew a sharp intake of breath. Is this what it means to kill two birds with one stone? That's insane. The Tamer of Divine Lightning is truly terrifying. Godin really is one of the most powerful cultivators in the Immortal Spirit Tower. But what's going to happen to junior student Tang now? If he intentionally interfered in a battle between other students, he would be expelled from the Immortal Spirit Tower. However, Godin accidentally killed his opponent because he was too bad *SS, so he shouldn't be disqualified, right? Lin and Tang Shimin looked at each other with dumbstruck expressions. At this moment, a white-robed elderly man appeared between the two of them. He was none other than the guardian and administrator of the restricted area, Bai Zhong. Bai Zhong's face convulsed imperceptibly as he looked at Lin and Tang Shimin. He turned to Tang Shimin first before asking in a solemn voice, "Did you conspire with him?" Tang Shimin was on the verge of tears upon hearing this. "No way. I didn't know anything. I was in the middle of a fierce battle, and the monster was somehow snatched away." Bai Zhong then turned to Lin. "You did it on purpose?" Lin shook his head vehemently. "I really didn't do it on purpose. I just didn't control my strength properly." Bai Zhong took a deep breath before roaring with rage. "How old are you? You can't even control your strength properly? What if you accidentally injure innocent living beings when you're fighting near a crowd? How can a person who doesn't even know how much power he has understand his own Tao?" "And you," Bai Zhong pointed at Tang Shimin before pointing at Lin. "Can't you two put some distance between yourselves? There's so much space here, and your strength has been restricted to 1%. How can you two put so much distance between yourselves?" Bai Zhong continued his rant, while Tang Shimin and Lin nodded with indignation on their faces. After this brutal lesson, Bai Zhong finally vented his negative emotions and heaved a forlorn sigh. "Don't do it again." His body disappeared on the spot as he spoke. And Lin heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing this, and he turned to Tang Shimin with an apologetic expression. "Sorry for interrupting your battle, senior student Tang." Tang Shimin shook his head blankly. "No, it's fine." He then looked around with a dazed expression. "Did I pass the 70th level just like that? Congratulations, senior student Tang." And Lin smiled. Tang Shimin pursed his lips. "I just wanted to prove that I'm different from last year. I do feel a little different now. After all, I've finally passed the 70th level. But why don't I feel happy about it?" And Lin didn't know what to say. Senior student Tang didn't seem to be very pleased with this assist that he had accidentally provided. Before they knew it, Su Xiaolan, Lu Qianhuan, Xian Yuan Cheng, Su Qianyan, and Zhu Qiubing had also concluded their battles. The fifth-year elite, Lu Yuan, was only at the spirit-nurturing final stage, and he was gradually losing in the face of a return to Void Stage Divine Intent battle. However, his eyes were glowing, and he was feeling more and more elated as he battled. It was clear that he had reaped many rewards from his battles. 15 minutes later, Lu Yuan was defeated. He looked toward the Immortal Spirit Tower with a hint of disappointment. In the end, he still wouldn't be able to leave his mark on the University Hall of Fame before he graduated. Chapter 593. On the 71st level, Tang Shimin made up his mind. He was going to prove himself this time. He was no longer the same person as last year. 7 returned to Void Stage. Celestial immortals materialized from their divine intents began to appear in the air. And Lin narrowed his eyes slightly. His opponents this time were clearly more powerful than last time. The aura fluctuations of the previous level belonged to new return to void stage cultivators. But this time, they belonged to return to void stage cultivators whose cultivation bases had stabilized. A return to void stage, Celestial Immortal pounced toward Lin with two golden shuttles materialized in his hands. These shuttles were so sharp that they looked as if they could easily tear through space with a single slash. And Lin used his agile movement techniques to evade the Celestial Immortal's attacks. He glanced at Tang Shimin out of the corner of his eye, and he heaved a sigh of relief upon discovering that he had already distanced himself from him. If he were to accidentally kill his opponent again, then he really wouldn't be able to explain himself. And Lin didn't think too much about this. He continued to use gentle techniques to battle his opponent before slowly increasing the power of his attacks. Tang Shimin didn't have the time to do that. He was fighting a Celestial Immortal in front of him with great difficulty. The Celestial Immortal's sword techniques were extremely powerful, and the true intent of the sword imbued within his attacks made Tang Shimin's heart palpitate with excitement. Whoosh! The Celestial Immortal's long sword began to ring, and it was about to unleash a sword technique. Tang Shimin's body trembled as he prepared to charge forward. All of a sudden, a white flaming sword projection flashed through the air with the terrifying power of holy flames. The Celestial Immortal's eyes widened, and his body was slowly sliced in half before falling to the ground and dissipating. Tang Shimin's eyes also widened as he stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before him. He raised his head in confusion and turned toward a certain direction. There was a woman in a jade dress, holding a long sword materialized from the holy vermilion flame, and she was looking toward him with an awkward expression. I'm sorry. I thought it wouldn't be so powerful after suppressing my power by 100 times. Su Xiaolan spoke with an apologetic expression. Tang Shimin's body swayed slightly, and he felt like throwing up a mouthful of blood. Why? Why did my monster get stolen again? At this moment, he only felt that the world was a vast expanse, and in his mind, a plum blossom song reverberated endlessly. And Lin was also dumbstruck. He was just about to carefully kill his opponent when he saw Tang Shimin's opponent being killed by Su Xiaolan. What kind of experience was that? And Lin felt like he was too embarrassed to look Tang Shimin in the eye. After all, his Tao partner-to-be was the one who had done this. For some reason, he was also struck by a sense of guilt. Outside the Immortal Spirit Tower, thousands of students also fell silent as they stared at Tang Shimin with complex expressions. Junior Tang won without doing anything again. That's right. Congratulations. The students of our Celestial Court are really getting better and better. Congratulations? Why don't I see any happy expression on your face? I think this is cheating. This is F*King hiring a substitute. I want to report this. In any case, I've got to hand it to her. As long as she has the right posture, she'll be able to pass regardless of whether she's powerful or not. This is actually the fault of junior student Su Xiaolan. I have to say, she's simply too powerful. That flaming sword strike was simply too terrifying, and that's why she accidentally killed an ally. Didn't Lin and Su Xiaolan plan this from the very beginning? It should be said that people who aren't the same type of people don't belong in the same family. Just as all of the students were discussing spiritedly among themselves, Bai Zhong appeared within the Immortal Spirit Tower again. He looked at Tang Shimin and Su Xiaolan with a sense of weariness in his heart. Well, had something like this ever happened to any of the students in the past? It was understandable if they were injured by accident, but to be reduced to ashes by a single F*King attack? That was way too ridiculous. Both of you, tell me about this matter. I told you not to do it again. Bai Zhong harumphed coldly. Tang Shimin felt extremely wronged. He didn't want to do it again, but there was nothing he could do about it. He was also in despair. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I won't use too much force in the future. Su Xiaolan lowered her head in apology. She had only wanted to test out her vermilion bird flaming sword strike, but she didn't think that it would be this powerful. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I'll Tang Shimin suddenly didn't know what to say, and he stammered as he tried to speak. What was he supposed to do in the future? What had he done wrong? He didn't know. Bai Zhong also felt like his chest was constricting, and his head was throbbing with pain. There had never been such a powerful soul formation stage student who was able to kill 2 divine intent enemies with a single strike. Even if there were extremely powerful students, they would usually be able to control their own power very well. In any case, there had never been a student as lucky as Tang Shimin. This was a battlefield with a radius of over a kilometer. Who would have thought that his divine intent enemies would just so happen to be within the range of their attacks? And they would be struck right in the bullseye. Su Xiaolan and Enlin had clearly been killed by mistake, so it was very difficult for Bai Zhong to expel them. You too, don't ever do it again. If something like this happens again, you'll have to bear the consequences. Bai Zhong really didn't know what to say, so he could only point at Su Xiaolan and Tang Shimin as he spoke. Why did this sound so familiar? Su Xiaolan nodded and promised that she wouldn't do it again, while Tang Shimin nodded with an aggrieved expression. Bai Zhong left, and the battle in the tower also drew to a close. Zhuo Qiubing panted heavily as he killed his opponent, and he turned to look at the calm and collected Tang Shimin with an envious expression on his face. He had fought for his life and finally defeated his opponent. As for Tang Shimin, who was in the same batch as him, he didn't even have to fight. He had been beaten by Tang Shimin last year. Could it be that even after progressing to the half-step soul formation stage, he still wouldn't be able to escape the fate of being dominated by Tang Shimin? Terrifying, he couldn't afford to mess with him. Not long after that, everyone passed through this level and began to proceed to the 72nd level. Tang Shimin gritted his teeth and swore to himself that he was going to prove himself this time. He was going to defeat his opponent with his own power and not be disturbed by anyone again. He made his way to a corner, and all of the other students seemed to be able to sense his emotions, so they all chose to distance themselves from him and maintain a safe distance from him. The 7 divine intent enemies began to revert back to their original appearances before charging toward everyone with powerful auras. An intense battle instantly erupted, and then Tang Shimin was defeated. His chest was punctured by his opponent's lightning, and his entire body was numb as he lay on the ground, hovering between dizziness and clarity. Enlin and the others had actually concluded their battle much faster than Tang Shimin's. They had been spectating from the sidelines this entire time, and they had witnessed Tang Shimin's defeat. Tang Shimin turned to Enlin and the others. Am I more powerful than I was last year? I'm definitely more powerful than I was last year, am I right? If I had fought on the 70th or 71st level, I would definitely have won, am I right? I'm no longer the same person as I was last year, am I right? His words were laced with blood and tears, and the scene was extraordinarily touching. Senior student Tang, you're one of the most powerful cultivators of the spirit nurturing stage. Su Xiaolan offered words of consolation. Senior student Tang, you're actually powerful enough to pass even the 72nd level. It's just that your mental state was affected by us, which resulted in your defeat. And Lin also found an excuse to console Tang Shimin. Tears welled up in Tang Shimin's eyes. Next year, I'll definitely. Right at this moment, another bolt of lightning fell from the divine intent battle, and Tang Shimin was knocked unconscious. Tang Shimin was teleported out of the tower just like that, and he didn't even get a chance to finish his sentence. Everyone fell silent. No, it should be called a moment of silence. After a minute of silence, Enlin and the others continued onward to the next level. Chapter 594. Outside the Immortal Spirit Tower, thousands of students heaved forlorn sighs upon seeing Tang Shimin's defeat. I thought junior brother Tang would be able to lie on a few more floors. Brother, you're going too far. Junior Tang had already worked very hard, and those things were not something he could control. I think the hardworking junior brother Tang is so cool. I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I feel that someone as hardworking as him might be half a step away from the divinity transformation stage in the next year. He can make a name for himself in the Hall of Fame of the university. The students were still discussing spiritedly among themselves. At this moment, Tang Shimin had already woken up. His body was still numb from being pierced by lightning, and there was even a lingering feeling of impending death. It had to be said that the Immortal Spirit Tower's battle simulation was very powerful. It could train a trial taker's combat prowess to the fullest extent, and he had learned a lot from that battle. It was a pity that he was defeated so early. Tang Shimin turned his gaze toward Lin and the others. On the screen of water, their battle was extremely spectacular, and he couldn't help but yearn for it. Lin and the others overcame all difficulties and unknowingly arrived at the 80th level. Unfortunately, Zhuoqiubing was defeated on the 77th level. He made up his mind that he had to pass the 80th level before he graduated and enter the university's Hall of Fame. Now Lin, Su Xiaolan, Xinyuan Cheng, Su Qinyun, and Lu Qianwan had arrived at the 80th level. This was the first level of the Immortal Spirit Tower. If he succeeded, he would have fame, power, and all sorts of wealth. If he failed, he would only be able to obtain some pills and spirit stones, and then he would dejectedly leave. The Divine Intent combatants on the 80th level were probably at the pinnacle of the return to Void Intermediate stage when they were alive. Not only can he use all types of high-rank spell techniques, but they can even manifest their Tao. They're extremely powerful, so don't get careless. Lu Qianhuan immediately gave an introduction upon arriving at the 80th level. Su Qianyun and the others all wore grave expressions on their faces. As half-step soul formation stage cultivators, they were already feeling quite strained on the first few levels. Zhuoqiubing was also a half-step soul formation stage cultivator, but he had been defeated on the 77th level. Now, the 80th floor was clearly another watershed. It seemed like it would be a bitter battle. Rumble. Suddenly, 5 figures with auras as vast as the sea condensed in the void. The divine intents of celestial immortals at the pinnacle of the return to Void Intermediate stage were all enveloped by some kind of divine light, as if they were gods who had descended into the mortal world. They were noble, powerful, and intimidating. Lin could even sense a haughty aura emanating from their bodies. 5 heaven immortals condensed with divine will began to pounce toward Lin and the others. Lin's opponent was a woman wielding a red ribbon. As soon as she pounced, she released dozens of ribbons, which wrapped around Lin. The red-colored silk was all-encompassing, with earth, wind, water, and fire appearing within it. It was either filled with a piercingly cold, murderous aura or surrounded by condensed water. For a moment, Lin felt as if he was surrounded by a flawless killing formation, and he had no way to deal with it. However, he quickly realized that this was just an illusion. As long as he had enough strength, there was nothing that could not be broken. A golden lotus flower appeared on his forehead as he faced the oncoming red ribbon. A golden light revolved around his fist, which was imbued with the power of the earth, and he punched forward with all his might. The terrifying power of the golden fist tore the red ribbon into shreds. The woman turned pale with fright, and she waved her red ribbon in front of her. Rumble. The golden light crashed down in front of the woman and exploded. The woman hurtled back in retreat amid a sea of red shrapnel. Huh, she blocked it? Now it's interesting. And Lin's eyes lit up. His previous opponents were far too unchallenging to him, as they were all insta-killed. This opponent was very powerful, and he could probably use it as a warm-up. The woman waved her slender arms, and as her lithe figure spun, a series of red ribbons suddenly soared into the sky. The ribbons revolved in the air, forming a series of sharp spiral spears. In that instant, a terrifying killing intent filled the entire space, as if the god of death had made his announcement. Blood silk killing spears. One spear after another was enshrouded in red energy, and it tore through the air before stabbing toward Lin with devastating force. Divine inspection technique. And Lin's eyes suddenly turned snowy white, and all of the spears slowed down. They didn't actually slow down. It was just that his consciousness was highly focused, so he was able to see everything clearly. The trajectories of the spears, as well as the flaws in their attacks, were all laid bare for all to see. Enlin's body moved like a ghost, and the red spears crashed into the ground one after another, but none of them were able to strike his body. Enlin took advantage of this opportunity to quickly close in on the woman. The celestial immortal's expression shifted upon seeing this, and she was just about to unleash a defensive spell technique. At this moment, Enlin's fingertips were already flashing with lightning. Lightning manipulation technique, lightning amplification technique. Not only did he draw upon return to void stage golden void lightning, but he also activated the lightning amplification technique. A thick bolt of golden lightning exploded in the air before instantly striking the woman's head. Boom! Terrifying lightning energy exploded, and destructive lightning power flowed through the woman's body, making her shudder and show signs of crumbling. At this moment, Enlin had already appeared before her, and his golden fist fell upon her. An earth-shattering boom erupted, and the woman's body was pulverized. The battle finally drew to a conclusion. He turned toward the others to find that he was the first to finish his battle. Su Xiaolan wielded a long sword materialized from the holy vermilion flame as she unleashed a series of dazzling sword slashes, quickly vanquishing the opposing celestial immortal. She was the second to pass the trial. Lu Qianwan was next. She was still not using her sword. Instead, she was wielding her six-feathered staff, unleashing a series of powerful spell techniques that caught her opponent completely off guard. She sustained one wound after another before finally being blasted to death by golden light. Lu Qianwan had reached level 87 last year, so Enlin didn't have anything to worry about. He turned towards Su Qianyun and Xianyuan Cheng. Both of them had only progressed to the half-step soul formation stage not long ago, so no matter how talented they were or how powerful their bloodlines were, they weren't all that powerful. As such, it was not going to be easy for them to win this battle. Su Qianyun's situation was slightly better than Big Brother Cheng's. Her movement techniques were extremely agile, and she was like a moon rabbit as she constantly leaped around on the ground. Her jet black hair danced in the wind like a waterfall, and her fair and delicate little hands slashed out streaks of pure white moonlight toward the enemy. Her opponent was a saber cultivator, and his attacks were peerlessly powerful. Each and every one of his attacks was powerful enough to split open a mountain. Unfortunately, his movement techniques weren't as fast as Su Qianyun's, so it looked like he was going to be worn down by Su Qianyun sooner or later. Enlin heaved a faint sigh of relief upon seeing this before turning toward Xianyuan Cheng. However, his expression shifted slightly at the sight of Big Brother Cheng. He could see that Big Brother Cheng was already on the back foot. Big Brother Cheng's opponent was a powerful being who had cultivated his body to the extreme. His speed and power were both extremely fearsome, and he was relentlessly attacking Big Brother Cheng, not giving him any chance to catch his breath. Big Brother Cheng switched from offense to defense, and just as he was about to reach his limit, a cold light suddenly flashed through his eyes. Chapter 595. Looks like I have no choice but to use that technique. Xianyuan Cheng was getting more and more exhausted as the battle progressed, and he could only heave a resigned sigh in the end. Even though he was at the half-step soul formation stage, he had never used the power of his domain in battle, as it was very easy for him to lose control of his domain. However, he was only one step away from the Hall of Fame. He was being forced into a corner by a return to void stage celestial immortal, and if he didn't use his domain now, he would most likely be defeated. The celestial immortal took advantage of a gap in his defenses and launched a punch towards Xianyuan Cheng's opening. The force of the fist landing in the air was like a sound wave cannonball that shot out. A projection of a black and white fish suddenly appeared beneath Xianyuan Cheng's feet. At the same time, his eyes were as calm as still water, as if they contained all things in this world as a mystical power enshrouded his entire body. Boom! The fist was deflected. Before he could finish his sentence, Xianyuan Cheng's expression shifted as he yelled, "Look out!" His voice had only just fallen when a resounding boom erupted. A terrifying explosion swept through the entire Immortal Spirit Tower as boundless flames, devastating shockwaves, and destructive power erupted at the same time. making the entire space feel as if doomsday had arrived. And Lin was prepared, but he was still blasted to the ground by the terrifying explosion. Su Xiaolan was quite sensitive to flames, and she was able to instantly summon her flames to protect her body, thereby allowing her to be the least affected and only be knocked back a few steps by the shockwaves. The flames dissipated. Xin Yuancheng coughed uncontrollably, and his white robe was in tatters. His long, flowing hair had been charred black, and his handsome face was as black as charcoal. Where was his divine intent opponent? He had already been reduced to ashes. Wah! An aggrieved wail sounded. Su Qinyan's blue dress had also been charred black and tattered. Her fair and delicate skin had been scorched red, and her intricate little face had also turned black. White smoke billowed out of her mouth as she screamed. Xian! Yuan! Lu Qianhuan had also been dealt a heavy blow. Her eyes were filled with rage as she glared at Xian Yuancheng with gritted teeth. Xian Yuancheng lowered his head in shame. I didn't control myself well. It's my fault. I'm sorry. He really didn't know that the spell technique would go out of control so quickly. The last time he sparred with Lin, it clearly didn't go out of control so quickly. He was able to use the Tao of myriad spirit Tai Chi to divert most of the explosive energy during the explosion, but the others couldn't. Xian Yuancheng was very depressed. He did not know what had happened to him. He had actually comprehended a personal domain like the Tao. The combination of the myriad spirits and the explosion symbolized life and destruction, which was in line with the Taiji Tao. However, his explosions were more than 10,000 spirits. He had basically reached the point where he would explode when he was excited. Hopefully, he would be able to fix this flaw by the time he reached the soul formation stage. After the explosion, Su Qinyan immediately used a spell technique to conceal herself. She then used a body cleansing technique to clean herself and changed into a new set of clothes. Only then did she land the final blow on the divine intent, being closest to Big Brother Chung, who was on the brink of death from the explosion. All of them had passed the trial on the 80th level of the Immortal Spirit Tower. The students outside the Immortal Spirit Tower were already in an uproar as countless people discussed excitedly among themselves. Classmate Xian Yuancheng is so handsome, especially after he's self-detonated. I'm extremely moved by his well-built muscles. A female student wore a starry-eyed expression. There were also some female students who had different opinions. How did my Adonis go from a handsome man to an explosive maniac? My Adonis, I can't accept this. A disappointed expression appeared on a male student's face. Why are Lu Qianhuan and Su Qinyan's clothes so good? Of course, there were also some students who were discussing cultivation. I felt like that melee combat Immortal's fist technique was very compatible with my Battle Tyrant fist, and I was enlightened. There are so many supremely talented third-year students. Not only hasn't Lin made it into the Hall of Fame, but Su Xiaolan, Xin Yuancheng, and Su Qinyan have also made it into the Hall of Fame, and they're only in their third year. That's right. Wang Xuanzhan was so domineering back then, but he only made it into the Hall of Fame in his fourth year. They're way too powerful. Thank God we still have Lu Qianhuan. Otherwise, it would be a real tragedy for us to watch our juniors take on the trial. What do you guys think Lu Qianhuan will be able to pass this time? Within the Immortal Spirit Tower, Bai Zhong looked on at the 5 students with a weary expression. He didn't want to say anything more about the explosions just then, nor did he want to yell at them. Losing control again. Losing control again. If they were so bad *SS, why didn't they just go to heaven and clear the Immortal Spirit Tower? Bai Zhong had a lot of pent-up anger in his heart, and he had repeatedly said that he wouldn't do it again. However, when he made a mistake, it was always someone else who would take the blame. Considering the fact that Su Qinyan clearly had the upper hand in her battle against the Divine Intent Combat Immortals, Bai Zhong couldn't be bothered to deal with her Divine Intent Combat Immortals anymore. After all, it was quite tiring for him to repeat the same words every time he had to scold someone. Furthermore, they no longer had a chance to influence one another in the trials after the 80th level. Bai Zhong didn't waste any more time with words as he brought out 18 number badges. First of all, Congratulations on making it into the Hall of Fame of the university. Next, these are the entry badges for levels 81 to 98. Due to the limitations on the number of Divine Intent combat immortals, you can only choose 3 different levels, and you can't choose the same level as everyone else. Now, you can choose a level, and I'll let you choose the next one after passing the trial. And Lin asked with a curious expression, there are 99 levels in the Immortal Spirit Tower. Why isn't there a 99th level badge? Bai Zhong harumphed coldly. If you want to reach the 99th level, you have to pass the 98th level first. Ever since the Immortal Spirit Tower was first opened, no one has ever been able to pass the 98th level. Don't be too ambitious, young man. Bai Zhong couldn't help but start lecturing everyone again. Everyone knew that they only had 3 chances. Each time they passed, they would be rewarded handsomely. In fact, they might even receive recognition from the Divine Intent combat immortals and receive an inheritance of a battle spell technique. If they failed on their first attempt, they would be teleported out of the Immortal Spirit Tower. Wouldn't that be a waste of their next 2 chances? Su Qianyan timidly chose level 81, while Xin Yuancheng also wanted to test the waters and chose level 82. Lu Qianwan picked herself up from where she had fallen, and she resolutely chose the 87th level. Su Xiaolan paused momentarily before picking up the badge for level 86. And Lin immediately picked up the badge for level 92 without any hesitation. Bai Zhong pursed his lips at the sight of Lin's confident expression. Then I wish you all the best. He waved his sleeve through the air as he spoke, teleporting everyone to different levels of the tower. Chapter 596. On the 92nd level of the Immortal Spirit Tower, rays of sunlight penetrated the barrier and fell into the pagoda. Outside the pagoda was a bright blue sky with white clouds, but inside the pagoda there was frost. And Lin looked at the gray-robed man 50 meters in front of him. His skin was pale, and his eyes were long and narrow. There was a cold, full moon floating behind him, and within the coldness, there was a hidden, killing intent. And Lin could sense that this man's aura had already reached the return to void final stage. Clearly, he was a top-notch celestial immortal who had comprehended the divine Tao. A faint smile appeared on the man's face, and he nodded as he said in a rather feeble voice, "Hello, I didn't think that such a stunning prodigy would appear on the university. You've reached the soul formation intermediate stage in your time at the university, so it's no wonder that you're able to reach the 92nd level. I am Feng Yi, and I walk the path of the Frost Moon." And Lin faltered slightly upon hearing this. "You can talk." Feng Yi nodded. "I've already stepped onto my own Tao, so my divine will can also be infused with some of my Tao's true intent, and it has its own consciousness. This is also the reason why I am able to impart my combat inheritance to you. Unfortunately, this is not a method to achieve longevity. There will come a time when it will wither away. Greetings, Senior. I am Enlin." Enlin bowed respectfully. Feng Yi smiled and nodded. "Very good. Then, little friend Enlin, can we begin? As long as you defeat me and beat me to my heart's content, I can consider teaching you a move or 2. And Lin's face twitched slightly. They were still talking nicely just now. Why did the situation suddenly change? However, he didn't waste any more time. He stepped forward, and the power of his body of the war god began to emanate from his body. Oh, this aura is so powerful, and it also has a kind of great perfection power. Feng, he had a look of surprise on his face. He waved one hand, and the space within a radius of several hundred meters was suddenly filled with endless moonlight. The power of the moonlight was a faint white color. It was as if it had fused with the entire space and could not be dispelled by external forces. And Lin felt a bone-chilling cold spread throughout his body. The power carried by the moonlight was high and indistinct, but it followed like a shadow. And Lin knew that he couldn't sit still and wait for death. He stretched out his wings of wind and pounced on Feng Yi. However, just as Enlin was about to make a move, a silver blade imbued with the power of death flashed through the air and struck his heart in the blink of an eye. Bang! That sharp light seemed to have hit something extremely hard, and it actually scattered like water. Fong Yi's expression changed, and the moon behind him shone brightly. However, at this moment, Enlin was already right in front of him. He activated his Earth Lotus Supreme skill to its fullest extent, and his fist was imbued with the power of the earth as he punched downward. Rumble! The golden ripples vibrated, and even the air began to distort. Fong Yi's barrier made of moonlight was instantly shattered. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. Enlin was astonished. Divine Intent battles could also throw up blood? Fong Yi wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Enlin in shock. You're very strong. Who would have thought that a freak like you would appear in the Celestial Court? I'm going to use my most powerful technique now. He suddenly made a strange, ancient seal with both hands as he spoke. The moon behind him suddenly split into two, then into four. It continued to split until the entire sky was filled with countless moons. A boundless chill surged through the air, suffocating everyone present. Divine Tao technique, myriad frost moon, and Lin drew a sharp intake of breath upon seeing this, and his legs turned to jelly. He had trypophobia. Just as the countless moons fell, a flame insignia appeared on Enlin's forehead, and a flaming feather fluttered beside him. He drew a bow with one hand and pointed his other hand at Fong Yi. The demonic star flame, great holy flame, setting moon flame, and heavenly void flame began to converge to form a long arrow. This was a spell technique that combined the Crimson God arrow and the four divine flames with the full power of the wings of true fire cultivation method. Boom, boom, boom. And Lin's body was inundated by the boundless waves of moons. However, a Crimson God arrow with a head as bright as a star and a body as bright as the sun instantly pierced through the terrifying frosty moonlight. It left a trail in its wake before puncturing Fong Yi's heart. The moonlight dissipated, and Fong Yi stared at the hole in his heart with incredulity etched on his face. After a few seconds of silence, he came to his senses and murmured to himself, I lost? Moreover, he lost so cleanly? And Lin also appeared before him, and an even more incredulous scene unfolded. Even though Lin's clothes were in tatters, his most powerful spell technique didn't leave even the slightest mark on his skin, as he was completely defenseless. Gasp! Fong Yi drew a sharp intake of breath. What kind of body is this? And Lin looked at Fong Yi's punctured heart and his unstable body, but he didn't answer Fong Yi's question. Instead, he scratched his head. Does this count as my win? Fong Yi's lips twitched. Of course you've won this battle. The Celestial Court will be even more glorious in the future with such an outstanding talent like you. You're too kind, Senior. And Lin spoke with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. That battle spell technique inheritance. Oh, I won't be giving you my battle spell technique. Fong, he waved his hand, and Lin's expression faltered upon hearing this. Why? He had clearly defeated Fong Yi, and he had done it in such a clean and efficient manner. So why wasn't there any inheritance? It's like this. I'm saying that I only shared my battle spell technique inheritance with you after you defeated me. Fong Yi pointed to his chest and continued. But you ended the battle in an instant. I didn't even get a chance to get high before I was defeated. I was like a real man for 3 seconds. How is that satisfying? And Lin's body swayed slightly, and he almost threw up a mouthful of blood. His mouth gaped open as if he had misheard Lin. Too fast. Not satisfying? What kind of explanation was that? Wasn't this reason too fresh and out of the ordinary? Outside the Immortal Spirit Tower, all of the students who were observing Lin's battle were also dumbstruck. They could naturally hear the conversation between Fong Yi and Lin. Hence, the mighty image of a top-tier celestial immortal was beginning to crumble. Is that something a top-tier celestial immortal should say? What the hell? The prodigy of the school didn't receive the inheritance after challenging the 92nd level because it was too fast. I feel bad for classmate Lin for a minute. I want to vomit blood after hearing this reason. Looks like being too powerful isn't a good thing after all. The celestial immortal can't take it. Fong Yi felt a little better upon seeing the dejected expression on Lin's face. With such a powerful body and such fearsome spell techniques, why would Lin need his inheritance? It would be a waste of time anyway. After all, it was more about quality than quantity. Through their battle, he could tell that Lin's spell techniques were clearly more powerful, so why would he waste his energy on Lin? He might as well save his energy for his future students. Of course, he couldn't say this out loud. Otherwise, as a return to Void final stage Celestial Immortal, he would be completely humiliated. Feng Yi offered a comforting smile. Don't be disappointed, Mr. Lin. You're very powerful, so you'll definitely receive a better inheritance in the future. I think you can challenge higher levels in the Immortal Spirit Tower, such as the 95th level, the 96th level. At this moment, Bai Zhong had already appeared before Lin. Congratulations, student Lin. You've successfully passed the 92nd level. Which level would you like to challenge next? He had also finished observing Lin's battle, and he had a better understanding of Lin's abilities. It was exactly because of this that the disdain in his heart completely vanished as he looked at Lin with a hint of curiosity and anticipation in his eyes. I want to challenge the 98th level. And Lin replied without any hesitation. He felt like he was being too low-key. Why would he choose the 92nd level for no reason? He had worked so hard to defeat a small boss, only to receive no rewards. If that was the case, he might as well have chosen the most difficult level from the very beginning. Bai Zhong. All right. Chapter 597. Outside the Immortal Spirit Tower, all of the students erupted into an uproar upon hearing that Lin was going to challenge level 98. My God, Lin is going to level 98? How many years has it been since something like this happened? Even Wang Xuanzhan only managed to pass through level 93 before being forced to retreat at level 94. Now, Lin is going to jump straight to level 98? He got and defeated senior student Wang with a single finger. Will he have a problem challenging level 98? This is a battle that only happens once in 1,000 years. If he wins, he might be able to break the school record. To be able to witness the birth of a historic event on campus here, I feel that there is one more thing worth remembering in my life of cultivation on campus. Many of the students were getting a little excited upon hearing this, as they stared at the white-robed figure on the screen with scorching light in their eyes. Of course, there were also some students who were spectating other battles. For example, a group of female students were watching Xianyuan Cheng's battle with scorching light in their eyes, even though Xianyuan Cheng wasn't battling. That's right, he wasn't battling yet. He was merely chatting. A beautiful female, celestial immortal, with a crimson whip in her hand, was looking at the man before her with a speechless expression. She heaved a forlorn sigh. Have you said enough? Xianyuan Cheng shook his head. No, Senior Shuyu. Can't you tell me how this Immortal Spirit Tower works? You must be in a lot of pain, right? Shuyu's face convulsed slightly. No, I'm very happy. How can you be happy? The divine intent that has been infused into the Tao realm basically has a wisp of your consciousness attached to it, which means that this divine intent is also you, Senior. Xianyuan Cheng took a deep breath as a determined expression appeared on his face. I'm a cultivator of the Tao of myriad spirit Tai Chi, so you won't be able to fool me. Senior, you've been trapped in a tower for so long. Are you really happy with a life like this? I'm happy to be able to contribute to the celestial court, Shuyu replied. No, you're not happy. I can see the confusion in your eyes. Xianyuan Cheng replied with conviction. Shuyu, I really am. You're really not happy, Xianyuan Cheng said seriously. Shuyu, if it weren't for the fact that this student was handsome and that he was doing it for her own good, Shuyu would have lashed him with her whip without a second word. So, what exactly do you want? Shuyu said weakly. I'm quite knowledgeable about the Tao of all spirits. I can release you from purgatory, but I need your cooperation, Xianyuan Cheng said seriously. Shuyu's eyes darkened. Are you trying to kill me? Xianyuan Cheng shook his head. That's not it. I'm just sending you out of this world so that you can truly be liberated and return to the myriad spirits to be reincarnated once more. You're different from the ancient sages below the 80th level. If your consciousness remains here, you won't be able to truly enter the cycle of reincarnation. Shuyu rolled her eyes. So, you're F asterisk king trying to destroy me. Xianyuan Cheng smiled and said, isn't it good to start a new life? A life where you can find happiness. A life where you can experience the beauty of all things. Sunlight streamed into the tower from outside, shining upon Xianyuan Cheng's exquisitely handsome features. His eyes were as dazzling as the stars in the sky, and his smile was as mesmerizing as the warm spring sun. That instant smile was so beautiful that it made people want to keep it. Shuyu was completely dumbstruck as she stared at the man before her. She had wanted to say that this man was F asterisk king retarded. However, she couldn't bring herself to say that after seeing such a warm and sincere smile. Outside the immortal spirit tower, all of the female fans screamed at the sight of this smile, and the coarse male voice could be heard among the screams. But I've already sworn a vow to survive in the immortal spirit tower as a divine intent warrior. Shuyu felt like her mind was in a mess. So what? I can still help you transcend as long as you cooperate with me. A warm smile appeared on Xianyuan Cheng's face as he continued. I still think that it's unreasonable to leave the consciousness of an immortal here. Even though it would be of great help to the students of the Celestial Court, there are many better alternatives. Why sacrifice the happiness of so many revered celestial immortals? Shuyu listened blankly. There was not a single hint of falsehood in the man's expression or tone. She knew that he was truly looking out for her. I'm very weak right now, so I can only do my best to help everyone find happiness. Yes, this is only happiness in the narrow sense of the word, but as long as you agree, as long as you want to do it, then I will do my best to help you. Perhaps this is a way for me to respect life. Xianyuan Cheng's words struck Shuyu's heart like a sledgehammer. How many years had it been since she had done nothing but fight? Aside from fighting, she could only stay on the 82nd level every day and look out at the blue sky and white clouds in the distance. To her, the world outside the immortal spirit tower was a world that she could only dream of. Perhaps she would continue to fight like this forever. She would continue to fight like a machine, operating in a fixed pattern until the wisp of her consciousness could no longer be contained within her divine intent. Was she happy? For the sake of the Celestial Court, she felt like she had a responsibility. However, it was still the same question. Was she happy? There was a man standing before her, and instead of fighting, he was telling her that she was not happy. This man seemed to have changed her unchanging habit of fighting as soon as they met. Xianyuan Cheng was like a ray of sunlight, bringing a different hue to her gray life. Do you want to be free? Do you want to start afresh? If you're tired of it, if you want to be free, I can help you. Xianyuan Cheng extended a hand toward Shuyu, the hand that gave her the courage to make a change. Tears welled up in Shuyu's eyes as she stared blankly at the man before her. Was this what it felt like to be cared for by someone? How many years had it been? She was already dead, but she was once again experiencing what it felt like to be alive. A vibrant smile suddenly appeared on Shuyu's face, and it was especially vibrant and enchanting under the sunlight. Xianyuan Cheng, you're such an interesting man. If I were still alive, perhaps I would pursue you instead. The woman's voice was as gentle as a spring breeze, and it was tinged with a hint of affection. Xianyuan Cheng faltered upon hearing this, and his hand froze on the spot, unsure of what to do. Was this a confession of love? How did things get to this point? How did things get so out of hand? Right at this moment, the woman's hand had already reached out toward Xianyuan Cheng and gripped tightly onto his hand. She could feel the warmth emanating from a man before her, and it was a feeling that she could rely on him. Shuyu took a deep breath as a vibrant smile appeared on her face. Xianyuan Cheng, help me. I want to start afresh. Chapter 598. Outside the immortal spirit tower, countless eyes were staring intently at Xianyuan Cheng's screen. What could they do? This was simply far too unimaginable. Thus, after a series of cries of surprise, Xianyuan Cheng's battle screen instantly attracted everyone's attention. Oh, it couldn't really be called a battle screen, as there was no battle at all. Holy F asterisk CK. What the hell happened? Why is Xianyuan Cheng shaking hands with that woman? All of the students who had just turned their attention to Xianyuan Cheng's battle screen were dumbstruck. Could it be that what I'm watching is a fake trial? What the hell is with this friendly and harmonious scene? Does anyone know what exactly happened? Can you explain it to me? Many of the students who had just turned their attention to Xianyuan Cheng's battle screen were eager to find an explanation. However, the students who had witnessed the entire process were not in the mood to provide an explanation, as they were also digesting what they had just seen. It took time for them to come to terms with something as inconceivable as this. Is Xianyuan Cheng really that bad *SS? He can even touch the divine intent of a mighty figure. Congratulations to the male and female guests for successfully holding hands. They can go on their honeymoon now. A student quipped, "Wah, my Prince Charming, how could you do this? How could you choose her?" A female student's heart was shattered. "Sigh, let's give them all our blessings." To be honest, why do I feel like Xianyuan Cheng's words make a lot of sense? I also sympathize with the mighty figures who have chosen to remain in the Immortal Spirit Tower. Even though they have sworn vows, I think we should give them a chance to leave. Many students chimed in with their sentiments upon hearing this. Of course, there were also some students who had different opinions and felt like they should consider things from the perspective of the Celestial Court. Within the Immortal Spirit Tower, Xianyuan Cheng was also a little dazed as he held onto Shu Yu's hand. However, he quickly came to his senses and released her hand with a warm smile on his face. "Senior Shu Yu, please circulate your cultivation method according to my instructions, and I'll separate your true intent of Tao from your divine intent." Shu Yu nodded lightly and stared at Xianyuan Cheng. At this moment, Bai Zhong, who had just sent the Restless and Lin to the 98th level, suddenly sensed something and focused his spiritual sense on the 82nd level. If he hadn't seen it, he wouldn't have known, but the moment he saw it, he nearly fainted. *CK. Xianyuan Cheng wanted to send a mighty figure from the Immortal Spirit Tower to the afterlife. Most importantly, that powerful being didn't resist at all. What the hell was going on? Were all this batch of students so terrifying? Not only did he possess insane combat prowess, but he even wanted to send a mighty figure from the Immortal Spirit Tower to the afterlife. Bai Zhong was extremely flustered and exhausted. He didn't dare to make the decision. Even a vice principal of Yuhua couldn't make the decision. He looked at the expectant and yearning expression on Shu Yu's face and stopped himself from immediately stopping them. He chose to use the voice transmission talisman to contact the master of the Celestial Court, the Celestial Monarch. Perhaps only the Celestial Emperor was qualified to handle this matter. The voice transmission talisman was quickly connected. Bai Zhong relayed the general situation to the Celestial Arch, following which every second felt like a year. After about 10 seconds, a sigh of relief sounded from the other end of the voice transmission talisman. "Forget it. Let's leave it to fate." The answer was very clear. It was telling Bai Zhong not to interfere in this matter and to let Xianyuan Cheng and Shu Yu handle it themselves. Shu Yu closed her eyes, and her entire body was enshrouded by a white light. A massive yin-yang diagram revolved incessantly on the ground, reversing the flow of all living beings. Xianyuan Cheng activated his Tao of myriad spirit Tai Chi to its fullest extent, and the power of his consciousness was also activated to its maximum extent as a burst of light imbued with the power of reversal flooded the surrounding space. Shu Yu felt as if her body had become very light, as if some kind of shackle had been broken. However, this kind of action was bound to result in backlash. Xianyuan Cheng's eyes were bloodshot, and blood was flowing from the corners of his lips. However, he was completely oblivious to this as he continued to maintain his spell technique. Shu Yu seemed to have sensed something, and she opened her eyes, only to be greeted by the sight of Xianyuan Cheng unleashing his full power. Her heart jolted violently as an indescribable feeling welled up in her heart. "Xianyuan Cheng, don't say anything. Focus your mind." Xianyuan Cheng yelled this out in a loud voice. Shu Yu took a deep glance at Xianyuan Cheng before closing her eyes and continuing to activate her cultivation technique. Boom! The entire space on the 82nd level began to tremor violently. A vast and boundless power began to emanate forth. This power was soft but also ferocious, and it was as if a dragon were dancing in the air, creating a beautiful yet breathtaking sight. This was the true intent of Shu Yu's divine Tao. However, this power blossomed like fireworks, and the dazzling light only lasted for an extremely short instant before disappearing into thin air. An exquisitely beautiful celestial immortal landed in front of Xianyuan Cheng with tears in her eyes as she embraced the man before her tightly. "Thank you. Thank you so much." A smile finally appeared on Xianyuan Cheng's face as he sensed the woman's scorching emotions. He patted the woman's back with a hand that was trembling from overexertion. "I wish you happiness in the future, hero of the celestial court." Shu Yu closed her eyes as two streams of tears flowed down her cheeks. "I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but you were the one who illuminated the final moments of my life." The woman's body slowly dissipated into specks of light. An indistinct voice reverberated in Xianyuan Cheng's ears. "If there really is a next life, I hope I'll be able to meet you again." Xianyuan Cheng nodded with a smile as he stared at the slowly dissipating figure before collapsing to the ground in exhaustion. In order to break free from the binding of the vow, he had used up all of the power in his body, and he had even overexerted himself. Now, he had reached his limit and couldn't hold on any longer. Shu Yu left. Xianyuan Cheng's vision darkened as he completely fainted. A few seconds later, a white mist materialized. Bai Zhong appeared before Xianyuan Cheng and looked down at the man on the ground with a complex expression. Even now, he was still unable to understand what the man before him was doing. However, after hearing Shu Yu's words, he began to understand some things. "Sai, they're still sentient beings after all. I've overlooked their true feelings. Perhaps what you're doing really is the right thing." Bai Zhong heaved a forlorn sigh before waving a sleeve to teleport Xianyuan Cheng's body out of the tower. Then he muttered in a low voice, "What kind of monsters are these? This won't do. I have to go and see the others. I hope they don't cause any more trouble for me." Meanwhile, outside the Immortal Spirit Tower, several thousand students felt like they had just watched a blockbuster movie, and all of them were feeling a little dazed and dreamy. Xianyuan Cheng freed a celestial immortal? He's actually able to pull off such a flashy move? This is probably the first time something like this has happened since the opening of the Immortal Spirit Tower, right? As expected of the most exceptional prodigy of the Celestial Court. This is going to go down in the history books. That's so touching. I'm rooting for this Qingyu couple. Tui, Xianyuan Cheng is mine. Xianyuan Cheng was also forced to stop on the 82nd level because of this incident. What a pity that he lost all of his rewards and inheritances. There's too much of a difference in their thinking. You might think it's a pity, but Xianyuan Cheng doesn't think it's a pity at all. He had a smile on his face when he fainted. "Hey, look, Lu Qianhuan has already defeated the Celestial Immortal on the 87th level." Chapter 599. As a glorious guardian of the Forbidden Area, Bai Zhong's duty was to protect the Forbidden Area and maintain its normal operation, making it an inviolable sacred domain in the school. In the past, he had always been able to do his job very well. However, the Immortal Spirit Tower trial had been very unpredictable. The sheer power of Enlin and Su Xiaolan was proof that there was a major flaw in the Immortal Spirit Tower trial system. Xianyuan Cheng's act of releasing Shu Yu from purgatory was further proof that the Immortal Spirit Tower was far too lacking in humanized management. Bai Zhong's heart felt very tired. Then, he felt a sense of bravery after knowing his shame. Perhaps he should look at these students with gratitude. These students were the ones who had pointed out the shortcomings of the Immortal Spirit Tower with the naked truth. Lu Qianhuan had already defeated her opponent on the 87th level and obtained the Celestial Immortal's star-shattering hand. Bai Zhong appeared before Lu Qianhuan and offered sincere congratulations. She was only at the half-step soul formation stage, but she had already passed level 87. This was definitely the first time in the history of the Immortal Spirit Tower that someone had done so, and this was a testament to how powerful this woman was. Lu Qianhuan pondered for a moment before choosing the 91st level. Bai Zhong didn't want to interfere, but he couldn't help but grimace at the sight of Lu Qianhuan's badge, and he began to persuade her patiently. He said that one should be down to earth when doing things and not bite off more than one can chew. It was already very impressive for a half-step soul formation cultivator to pass through level 87. From now on, the correct choice would be to continue going through the levels and obtain 2 more inheritances. However, Lu Qianhuan immediately waved her hands and told him not to meddle in the affairs of young people. Everyone was an individual with their own ideas and dreams. There was a generation gap between the elderly and the young. Too much interference would harm them, so it was better to let them make their own choices. The frog in the well cannot speak to the sea, because it is confined to the void. The summer insect cannot speak to the ice, because it is confined to the time. The song scholar cannot speak to the Tao, because it is confined to the teachings. Senior Bai Zhong, I'm not insulting you. I just can't think of a better way to express my feelings, so I'm using this as a general explanation for the generation gap. Lu Qianhuan was still going on, and Bai Zhong was almost completely dumbstruck by her lecture. Was this a curse? This must be a curse, right? Shouldn't he be the one lecturing Lu Qianhuan? Why was it Lu Qianhuan lecturing him instead? I can't afford to offend them. I can't afford to offend them. None of these people are easy to deal with. Bai Zhong immediately teleported Lu Qianhuan to the 91st level, but he was still mulling over Lu Qianhuan's words. For some reason, he suddenly felt a little sad. On the 86th level, a pure white sword slashed through the void, slicing a man shrouded in black mist in half. Boundless holy vermilion flames of the holy vermilion bird were imbued within the sword projection, incinerating the void and reducing the body to ashes. Very good. Su Xiaolan, you have successfully defeated me. Next, I will give you the inheritance of the sky poison mist. A man's shadow appeared in the void again and said coldly. Su Xiaolan took a couple of steps back with a conflicted and awkward look on her face. Senior Ling Hujuan, see, can I refuse? Ling Hujuan's pupils contracted as an expression of incredulity appeared on his face. You're going to refuse my inheritance? Su Xiaolan nodded with a determined expression on her face. It's actually like this. My bloodline primarily revolves around fire and lightning, which are the bane of all sky poison mist. As such, there's no way for the 2 powers to fuse together. Even if I were to obtain the inheritance, it would be very difficult for me to master it. Ling Hujuan's body swayed slightly, and his heart suddenly throbbed with pain. That seemed to be the case, but he was a high and mighty celestial immortal in his past life. Countless people begged him for guidance, but now, someone was rejecting his inheritance? Did he not care about his pride? Bai Zhong hurriedly appeared on the 86th level upon sensing the celestial immortal's violent emotional fluctuations. Congratulations to Su Xiaolan for passing the trial on the 86th level, Bai Zhong announced with a smile. Thank you. Senior Ling Hujuan, I'm really sorry. Su Xiaolan bowed in apology again. Bai Zhong wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead as he tried to smooth things over. You don't have any affinity with Senior Ling Hujuan, so there's nothing you can do about it. Senior Ling Hujuan is a magnanimous person, so he won't hold it against you. Ling Hujuan's expression eased slightly as he turned to Bai Zhong. I naturally won't hold it against you, my little friend. It's just that some people don't give their trial takers some sort of direction to choose from, right? What kind of trial is there? What kind of inheritance is there? And you can't even make such a simple match. Ling Hujuan's figure slowly disappeared, leaving behind a dumbstruck Bai Zhong. Was I being scolded? Bai Zhong felt as if he was about to throw up a mouthful of blood. So this was all his fault? He had wanted to give Su Xiaolan a good lecture, but he had no choice but to swallow his words now. An awkward smile appeared on Bai Zhong's face as he pulled out his badge. Now, you can choose the next level. Su Xiaolan looked at the badge and pondered for a moment before picking up the number 95. Bai Zhong's face convulsed, and he wanted to say something, but he stopped himself. Su Xiaolan was only at the soul formation initial stage, But Wang Xuanzhan was also at the soul formation initial stage. Even he was defeated on the 94th level. So how could Su Xiaolan be more powerful than Wang Xuanzhan? She still had 2 more chances, so why was she being so impulsive? In the end, he gave up on trying to dissuade her. So be it. Letting his student fail once and suffer some setbacks would also be beneficial to her growth. Su Xiaolan went to the 94th level. At this moment, Su Qinyun also successfully passed through the 81st level. Su Qinyun received the inheritance of the Swiftwater Steps, and she was elated to see Bai Zhong choose the 83rd level. Bai Zhong was extremely relieved to see this, and he was almost moved to tears. He had finally met someone who was on the same wavelength as him. Su Qinyun really didn't have any ambitions or goals. All she wanted to do was collect inheritances in a safe and secure manner. Every inheritance she could obtain would be one more reward, and she would go as far as she could with a happy heart. She didn't even think about challenging levels that were too powerful. On the 91st level, sword intent swept through the entire space, and frost and snow covered the entire space. A celestial immortal wielded a jade-green longsword, and his sword projection rippled through the air in a peerlessly intricate manner, leaving a series of dazzling trajectories in the air. The Tao intent imbued within the sword projection was like dripping water piercing through rocks, and it even tore a series of cracks into the domain of extreme frost. Lu Qianhuan was completely suppressed. She held a frosty longsword that was materialized from water vapor in her hand, and she was completely unable to find an opportunity to retaliate in the face of the boundless jade-green sword projections. Exceptional sword immortal potential, ancient sword Tao physique, and perfected domain intent realm. Why aren't you at the soul formation stage? The man wielding the jade-green longsword turned his body, and the Tao intent of the water drop fell along with his longsword. The sword projection was imbued with terrifying penetrative power, and it instantly pierced through Lu Qianhuan's domain of extreme frost before striking her body. Lu Qianhuan's body tumbled to the ground as if she had been struck by a heavy blow, and she panted heavily. Then why don't you dare to take that final step? What kind of obsession has made you stop in your tracks? The man made his way toward Lu Qianhuan with a perplexed expression on his face. If you're going to fight, then fight. What's with all the nonsense? Lu Qianhuan gritted her teeth as she stood up and pointed her frosty longsword at the approaching man. Her slender figure stood tall and firm, and her aura was intimidating and frosty, as if she were a peerless divine sword herself. In the Tao of the sword, one can become an immortal through obsession. If you can't do that, then why don't you use your own sword to completely sever it? I'm sure you could do that as well, right? The man ignored Lu Qianhuan's scolding and spoke in an unhurried manner. Lu Qianhuan's body trembled upon hearing this, and she stood rooted to the spot in a daze. Sometimes, when one was lost in a daze, one sentence from someone with a discerning eye would be enough to wake them up. Perhaps she had thought of this method before, but her subconscious mind would automatically ignore it. But now, a person had appeared, rudely parted the dark clouds above her head, and pointed out an extremely obvious path. She had no choice but to consider it. After a few seconds, a sweet smile appeared on Lu Qianhuan's face. All right, since you've said that, then I'll make a breakthrough for you to see. Chapter 600. A faint smile appeared on the Sword Immortal's face as he sheathed his long sword behind his back. He stood silently nearby, not bothering Lu Qianhuan in the slightest. He was suave and elegant, like a gentleman. Lu Qianhuan's bright purple eyes became as still as snow upon seeing this. In that instant, she discarded all her emotions and entered a state of absolute forgetfulness. Forget it all. Cut off everything. Forgetting is the best release. Boom! In an instant, the wind and clouds within a 10-mile radius changed, and dark clouds covered the entire sky. Outside the Immortal Spirit Tower, countless students stared up at the rippling screen with dumbstruck expressions. After Xianyuan Cheng, their classmate Lu Qianhuan had once again shocked them to the core. Rumble, bolts of lightning imbued with terrifying power erupted within the dark clouds, as if they were threatening to tear the heavens apart. So classmate Lu Qianhuan is going to transcend her tribulation. Transcending her tribulation in the middle of battle? That's awesome, my goddess. I was just saying that Goddess Lu was being too aggressive and that it was unwise for her to choose such a high level. But now, it looks like she's going to make a breakthrough on the spot. I'm truly impressed. Lu Qianhuan's aptitude is truly exceptional. The scale of the lightning clouds this time is comparable to the scale of an Lin's tribulation transcendence. However, there's one thing that's different. The lightning in the sky is normal tribulation lightning, not golden void lightning. Just as the students were discussing spiritedly among themselves, and Lin, Su Qianyun, and Su Xiaolan also seemed to have sensed something, and they turned to look out the window with astonished expressions on their faces. Bai Zhongcai was elated over Su Qianyun's breakthrough for a minute before he was greeted by the sight of the dark clouds outside. This aura, could it be that someone is transcending their tribulation? He unleashed his divine sense throughout heaven and earth, upon which his expression shifted. Oh, so Lu Qianhuan is transcending her tribulation? As expected of one of the most supremely talented prodigies of the university to be able to attain enlightenment in the midst of battle and take that final step. Congratulations. Bai Zhongcai was quite elated when he suddenly realized something, and his expression shifted drastically. Holy F***CK. She was making her breakthrough in the Immortal Spirit Tower. So the lightning tribulation was going to strike the Immortal Spirit Tower. Bai Zhong knew that once a cultivator entered the tribulation transcendent state, they must not be disturbed by external forces. Otherwise, the lightning tribulation would become increasingly violent. Rumble, an earth-shattering roar accompanied by an extremely dazzling flash of blue light. An extremely thick bolt of lightning was already hurtling toward Lu Qianhuan within the Immortal Spirit Tower, but it was kept at bay by the roof of the Immortal Spirit Tower, upon which countless bolts of lightning exploded forth. Rumble, due to the obstruction, the lightning in the sky became even more violent and terrifying. What do I do? What do I do? Bai Zhong was so anxious that cold sweat trickled down his back. Lu Qianhuan's tribulation transcendence couldn't be interrupted or disturbed. However, if this continued, the lightning tribulation would be blocked, and the power of the lightning tribulation would become more and more terrifying. In the end, the terrifying tribulation lightning would blast a hole through the Immortal Spirit Tower, and Lu Qianhuan would be reduced to dust as she was unable to withstand the power of the tribulation lightning. Lu Qianhuan's eyelashes trembled lightly, and her face paled as if she had also realized this. Back when she took that final step, it was as if everything was going according to plan, and she didn't have to think too much about it. Now that she thought about it, she realized that she didn't seem to have the right timing, location, or the right people. Recklessly transcending a tribulation like this was far too irrational. Perhaps she really was going to be screwed. Bai Zhong immediately withdrew the defensive spell formations around the Immortal Spirit Tower, thereby removing all of the restrictions on Lu Qianhuan's power. This meant that Lu Qianhuan's power had returned to its original level, and she could use all of her treasures. However, this was still not enough to resolve the issue of the tribulation lightning. The Immortal Spirit Tower was a high-rank immortal tool, and it was constructed from an extremely sturdy material. If the tribulation lightning had already been enhanced to the point where it could pierce through the Immortal Spirit Tower, then how was Lu Qianhuan's body going to be able to withstand it? The male sword immortal's brows furrowed slightly as he slashed an extremely sharp sword projection toward the roof of the Immortal Spirit Tower. Boom! The sword projection exploded, only to find that it couldn't even pierce through the barrier between the 91st and 92nd levels. That made sense. He only had a wisp of his divine intent, so there was no way he could break through the high-rank, immortal tool Immortal Spirit Tower. Bai Zhong, hurry up and come out, the male sword immortal suddenly yelled. A white-robed elderly man hurriedly appeared with a voice transmission talisman in his hand. Kong Mohan, you knew that Lu Qianhuan was in the tower, so why didn't you stop her from making her breakthrough? Bai Zhong asked. Kong Mohan's face convulsed slightly as he confessed. I was the one who encouraged her to take the final step, as I couldn't bear to see such a good seedling being trapped by her obsession. Bai Zhong. So he wasn't trying to stop Lu Qianhuan. Instead, he was encouraging Lu Qianhuan to do this. Bai Zhong was extremely depressed. It was one thing for the trial takers to screw him over, but now they were even trying to screw him over with their divine intent. Kong Mohan was a renowned sword immortal across the entire continent, and he was also one of the most powerful sword immortal instructors. It looked like his occupational disease was acting up again, and he was unable to control himself. Let's not talk about that for now. Our top priority right now is to figure out how to help Lu Qianhuan overcome this ordeal, Kong Mohan urged in an urgent voice. Bai Zhong heaved a forlorn sigh. The Immortal Spirit Tower has already taken root here, so it can't be moved. Lu Qianhuan's lightning clouds have already taken shape, so she can't move them. Otherwise, she will suffer a backlash from the heavenly Tao. I've already told the Celestial Arch about this, and he's on his way here. We have no choice but to use brute force to disperse the lightning clouds. How could that be? No, that would affect her Tao foundation. If we forcibly disperse the lightning clouds, her next tribulation transcendence would be hundreds, even thousands of times more difficult. A remorseful expression appeared on Kong Mohan's face as he shook his head. A thought then seemed to occur to him, and he asked in a panicked voice, "Then why don't we just break through this Immortal Spirit Tower? We can break through from a 99th level to here and open up a passageway." Bai Zhong shook his head in resignation. If we do that, the spirit-gathering energy of the Immortal Spirit Tower will disappear, and all of you will die. All of your divine intents will disappear as well. The Celestial Arch probably won't make that choice. Kong Mohan's body swayed slightly. It's all my fault. Lu Qianhuan seemed to have heard their conversation, and her heart stirred slightly. Boom! Another extremely thick bolt of lightning crashed into the top of the Immortal Spirit Tower, causing the entire tower to tremor violently. On the 98th level, Lin felt as if he had completely recovered his strength, and he seemed to have understood something. He looked at his divine intents, then at the Immortal Spirit Tower, which had already deactivated its defensive formation, before finally turning his gaze outside the window. "I'm sorry, Senior, but I have more important things to do." His body transformed into a cloud of white mist before flying out the window. The barrier around the Immortal Spirit Tower had been shattered by the realm-piercing nail, and he appeared outside the Immortal Spirit Tower atop his brick. This tribulation lightning. Is Lu Qianhuan about to make a breakthrough? He looked up at the increasingly fearsome tribulation lightning before flying toward the 91st level without any hesitation. A dazzling red light flashed past, and the barrier around the Immortal Spirit Tower was pierced through again. Bai Zhong and Kong Mohan were both given a fright upon seeing this. "Lin, why are you here?" Bai Zhong was shocked. "What are you trying to do?" Kong Mohan asked in a cautious voice. Boom! At this moment, an extremely thick bolt of divine lightning fell from the sky with extremely terrifying might. And Lin pointed a finger up into the sky, and lightning flashed on his fingertip as he flicked it upward. The bolt of divine lightning suddenly curved before descending upon Lin like a water snake, before crashing down upon Lu Qianhuan. A resounding boom erupted alongside the explosive power of the lightning. Lu Qianhuan let loose a muffled groan as her body was enshrouded by countless arcs of lightning, and her body swayed slightly. The lightning manipulation technique worked, and Lin heaved a sigh of relief. "Why am I here? I'm here to help Lu Qianhuan transcend her tribulation, of course." Chapter 601. Within the Immortal Spirit Tower, Su Xiaolan and Su Qianyun had also ceased their battle. After recovering their strength, they also broke through the protective walls of the Immortal Spirit Tower before flying out through the windows. They were then greeted by the sight of Lin drawing lightning toward Lu Qianhuan. Thousands of students also let loose cries of surprise. "My God, classmate Lin can control tribulation lightning. Didn't you know?" God was able to control even the golden void lightning Kirin during his tribulation transcendence. So how could he have any problems controlling a normal bolt of divine lightning? I've only heard rumors in the past, so I didn't really believe them. Now that the truth is right before my eyes, I really have no choice but to believe it. The tamer of divine lightning truly lives up to his reputation. Phew! With Enlin around, Lu Qianhuan should be able to transcend her tribulation safely. That's right. I'm thinking that if we have Enlin to protect us when we transcend our tribulations in the future, wouldn't we be a lot safer? This is a godlike cheat for tribulation transcendence. Stop dreaming. This cheat is indeed real, but are you sure you can download it? Can I do it with my beauty? Hee. Are you more beautiful than Goddess Su Xiaolan or Goddess Lu Qianhuan? Some of the male students couldn't bear to listen to this any longer. Meanwhile, within the immortal spirit tower, Bai Zhong and Kong Mohan both stared blankly at Enlin. Was he controlling tribulation lightning just then? I'm not dreaming, am I? Bai Zhong felt as if he were hallucinating due to his old age. Boom! Another bolt of divine lightning fell, and Enlin pointed a finger toward Lu Qianhuan. The bolt of lightning crashed toward Lu Qianhuan's body like a series of scintillating lightning snakes, which continued to destroy and refine her body. This was a form of rebirth in the midst of destruction. A soul formation stage body had to be born from tribulation lightning. His name is Enlin, right? Who would have thought that such a supremely talented prodigy would appear in our celestial court? Kong Mohan stared at Enlin with a scorching light in his eyes. If it had been tens of thousands of years earlier, he would have definitely taken Enlin as his disciple. Furthermore, he wanted to take him in as his personal disciple and teach him everything he knew. Just the fact that he was able to face the lightning tribulation on his own was enough to win Kong Mohan over. Senior Lu, don't worry. I'm here, so don't worry. Up in the sky, the power of the heavenly lightning was becoming more and more terrifying. But Enlin's voice was extremely firm and steady. This was a promise. Lu Qianhuan's brows gradually relaxed as a hint of a smile appeared on her face. Yes, there was still Enlin outside. For some reason, Lu Qianhuan's heart began to relax. What she needed to do now was to circulate her mental cultivation method to temper her body, focus her mind, and stabilize and perfect her personal domain. That was all. There were a total of 49 bolts of tribulation lightning for soul formation stage cultivators, and Lu Qianhuan's tribulation lightning was quite normal. Aside from the fact that the immortal spirit tower was making it more powerful, there was nothing out of the ordinary about it. And Lin felt like at this rate, Lu Qianhuan still had a very good chance of successfully transcending her tribulation. Boom, boom, boom. The divine lightning continued to fall, and Enlin used his lightning manipulation technique to deflect the bolts of lightning through the window before striking Lu Qianhuan. Everything was progressing in an orderly manner. In the air above the immortal spirit tower, spatial fluctuations proliferated forth, immediately following which a graceful man in a yellow robe with a subdued aura appeared. He took a glance at the surging lightning clouds in the sky before turning to Enlin, who was still controlling the tribulation lightning. He took a deep breath and murmured to himself, "He really can control tribulation lightning." This man was none other than the Celestial Arch, the Celestial Arch. His appearance didn't attract anyone's attention. In reality, as long as he didn't want anyone to see him, no one would be able to notice his presence. Looks like I won't have to do anything this time. A faint smile appeared on the Celestial Thearch's face, but he didn't leave. Instead, he looked on with interest at the scenes unfolding before him. Su Xiaolan and Su Qianyun stood on their flying swords some distance away to create a safe distance. Su Qianyun's dreamy blue eyes widened as she stared at Enlin with astonishment. Who would have thought that classmate Enlin would be able to control other people's tribulation lightning? I'll have to ask classmate Enlin for help when I transcend my tribulation in the future. She turned to Su Xiaolan with a cautious expression as she spoke. You don't mind, do you? Su Xiaolan couldn't help but burst into laughter at the sight of Su Qianyun's nervous expression. Why would I mind? We're all good friends, aren't we? Besides, he's nobody to me. So why are you asking for my opinion? A sheepish smile appeared on Su Qinyun's face. Because everyone says that you and classmate and Lin are Dao partners-to-be. Su Xiaolan's expression remained stoic, but there was a hint of a smile in her eyes. She was clearly not averse to being referred to as Dao partners-to-be. Bolts of divine lightning fell one after another. And Lin unleashed his lightning manipulation technique over and over again, and the tribulation lightning became more and more powerful. He was finally beginning to show signs of strain. A human's power wasn't limitless, and there was bound to be fatigue and overexertion after using the same spell technique too many times. Thankfully, the tribulation lightning was about to conclude. She had already transcended 40 of the 49 bolts of tribulation lightning. She had already completed her body refinement and divine focus, and she was also nearing the end of perfecting her domain. However, right at this moment, an extremely terrifying intent soared into the heavens. All living beings within a radius of over 50 kilometers were struck by a frosty sensation. Bai Zhong and Kong Mohan turned to Lu Qianhuan with astonishment on their faces. Even the celestial Thearcha's expression shifted upon seeing this. Kong Mohan was a little incredulous. The ancient sword Dao physique has been awakened? Lu Qianhuan suddenly opened her eyes at this moment, and her aura soared explosively. The true intent of the sword flashed through her purple eyes, making her appear as if she were a paramount sword lord. In that instant, the swords of the thousands of students outside the Immortal Spirit Tower began to ring in unison. Even the green longsword in Kong Mohan's hand began to tremble uncontrollably. Once the ancient sword Dao physique was unleashed, all swords would submit to it. Rumble. The lightning in the sky began to converge to form a lightning sword that threatened to slice apart heaven and earth. Is this sword tribulation lightning? Kong Mohan murmured to himself. Who would have thought that I would be witnessing a legendary tribulation lightning? Only supremely talented swordsmen can manifest divine lightning into swords during their tribulation transcendence. Kong Mohan was astonished, but the thousands of students outside the Immortal Spirit Tower weren't all that surprised. With Lin's lightning Kirin in the past, it didn't make sense for a sword tribulation lightning to appear now. However, the sight of tens of thousands of swords submitting to Lu Qianhuan gave them quite a fright. Lu Qianhuan slowly rose to her feet, and her body was like an unsheathed divine sword. Lu Qianhuan slowly stood up, and her body was like an unsheathed divine sword, radiating a formless aura that no one could look directly at. She raised her head, and it was as if she could see through the Immortal Spirit Tower to the lightning sword hanging in the sky. Whoosh! The lightning sword sprang into action, leaving a dazzling trail in its wake. It was as if a lightning dragon were tearing through the heavens as it flew toward Lu Qianhuan under Lin's guidance. Boom! The lightning sword instantly punctured Lin's chest amid a flash of dazzling light. Heaven and earth instantly fell, deathly silent. Only the thunderous roar of a dragon could be heard, as well as the man who had been punctured by the lightning sword.